Hello, Max.
Hey.
So, boy, a lot of people watched the show yesterday. I'm sure a lot of people listened to the show yesterday.
People wanted their tea.
You know why they listened yesterday? Because
Why?
they're mad.
Yep, and they have every right to be.
This is the show, apparently, where people go to be mad, I think.
Or it's kind of like a support group where everyone just agrees with your opinions.
So for years and years, what's happened is I have always been a little cynical, right? Like when it comes to the Titans and the Predators and, anything else, I have been totally cynical, and people have hated that cynicism because I think a lot of times, and you can hear enough of this, just turn your dial a little bit, and you can hear local optimism and homer talk and everything else, which I don't think I can physically do.
But
honestly.
I don't think optimism always necessarily means homer talk.
No,
I think optimism, you can be optimistic and be realistic at the same time. But it's when the optimism is unwarranted is when it's homerism.
Well, I feel like for me, maybe I'm like glass half empty.
I would agree with that.
And so people would rather hear glass half full.
Fair.
But when the glass is a
Empty.
4-0 sweep,
Empty.
then they want to hear that the glass is empty.
Ain't no water in that glass.
And so I want to start on something because I truly feel like I'm the only person who's just been saying this and has, I would say has the guts to say it because, I think people have guts to say it. They're just not saying it. But I think the biggest problem with the Predators is the general manager. And as I said yesterday, I think it's time for a change. But I also think the coach has to go too. And I don't think the coach has to go because the general manager didn't get him good enough players and they didn't win enough games, and so we're putting that on the coach. I think the coach has to go for two reasons. One, I'm not convinced he's a good coach. And I hear everybody tell me all the time that he's a good coach. I hear people inside the organization that are like, hey, I know how you feel about coach, but I think coach is a really good coach. And I hear people from outside the organization, like Robby yesterday, and people like, Hines is a good coach. And I'm just not sure I buy that. Like, there is nothing that he has done as coach of the Predators other than the turnaround last season where they were just terrible. And that turnaround last season, and that was legit. But other than that, there's just not in a 7-year career in the NHL, there's just nothing that warrants me to sit there and say that he's a good coach. And I remember as a kid, and I think I'm truly scarred from this. As a kid, I used to listen to sports talk radio, and I remember every other year there was a discussion about Jeff Fisher, and it was like, if you fire Jeff Fisher, he'll get a job in 5 minutes. And it was almost like the local media scared us into thinking that Jeff Fisher was some irreplaceable football coach that our city could never do without. And so I think I'm a little scarred from that, emotionally, of being as a young kid, told all the time that Jeff Fisher was some football god. And the realization I think that everybody in America has now that Jeff Fisher ain't worth a crap. He's even terrible in this.
In the USFL.
Whatever the crazy league he's in.
USFL.
He's awful in that.
Yeah,
His
that
team
game
stinks.
is so bad. I watched their first game, and that was all I needed to see.
They lost on a 21. They lost on a 21-yard field goal the other day, where the guy who'd missed 3 kicks in the game hit the upright. He's just terrible. Anywho, I digress. But so I just don't think there's anything that tells me that John Hines is a good coach. The second thing that bothers me is I think we've moved the goalpost on what the expectations for the team are since Hines took over as coach. So the Predators had gone to the Stanley Cup final in 17, and Laviolette was king. President's Trophy in 18, lost a tough 7-game series to Winnipeg. We all know how that went. The next year, the power play was awful. I think Roman Josi led the team with 50-something points. It was awful. It was a horrible offensive season from the Predators, the 2019 year. Power play was a mess. They got into the playoffs. They won the division. They got hot at the end of the year. They said the power play problems were behind them. They went 0-15 against Dallas on the power play. They dropped a couple of eggs in that series. They lost that series, and people were mad. They were mad. Maybe not as mad as they are now, but they were mad. And then Laviolette came back the next year. They won some games. Then they started to lose. Then they fired Laviolette. And I was pro Laviolette, but hearing from the people that covered the team said there were some issues that, the team may have been fractured or broken or whatever. But they hired John Hines. And all the talk when they hired John Hines was about John Hines being the guy to turn this around. That he was going to come in here and just, immediately just turn it around. And that hasn't happened. And now I'm being told by everybody that he's a good coach because they've made the playoffs the last 3 years. When the first year they made the playoffs, they made the play-in series, lost to a horrendous Arizona team with an interim coach. That was bad. Like, they were favored in that series, and they lost a best-of-5 in 4 games. They won 1 game in that bubble series against that terrible Arizona team. Then last year, they made the playoffs, got beat fair and square in a good series. He was not good on the bench, but I'm not sure it would have made that much of a difference. Being fair, I'm not sure it would have made that much of a difference if he had been great on the bench, but he was not good in that Arizona series. The Carolina series. Mm-hmm. But they lost that series and, whatever. He was terrible on the bench. The team fell apart down the stretch. He was awful on the bench in the Colorado series. They got swept. And now it's like everybody's pointing down, like when I was a kid talking about Jeff Fisher. It's like, how dare you not be happy with just making the playoffs, Jared? How dare you think that John Hines isn't a good coach after he got this team to the playoffs? And I go back to when he was hired. And again, we talk about rebuilding or turning things around or whatever. People wanted to believe that this team was a cup contender. I asked David Poyle about John Hines' New Jersey resume, which was not good, which we went over in detail yesterday. Listen to David's answer, and you tell me if he's talking about bringing John Hines in to turn this team back into a competitor that day in January of 2020.
As I said, I think John is one of the best young coaches in the game, up and coming, and I think his resume is just getting built. And, we're, with New Jersey, can't, and I don't want to go into their situation, but they were in a way different place than we were. I'm thinking that we're getting John just at the right time, where he's coached at the college, the U.S. program, in the minors, all of these things, and he's got a base in the National Hockey League. And we talked about these things. There's things that I'm sure he would say that he would do different again, and now he's got the chance to do it with a different team. Our team, our age, our competitiveness is way different than the New Jersey Devils. So I think we've got the best young coach that's out there on the rise. He's just getting into the prime of his career.
Our age, our competitiveness, our level is better than the New Jersey Devils.
And just getting into the prime of his career.
When you heard that, did you not interpret that as, hey, we think John's the missing key to the puzzle and we're off and going?
That's what it seems like, yes.
So I asked Hines at that press conference. This is his introductory press conference. I asked Hines what he was going to do differently in New Jersey when he didn't win, compared, to here with the expectation of winning.
John, what are you going to do differently in Nashville that you didn't do in New Jersey?
Well, I think it's a situation of two different teams. I think one of the most important things you have to do is really understand what the makeup of your team is, and then how that team needs to be able to play, maximize the talent, and also try to put players in situations regularly that they're going to be able to thrive in and benefit in. And I think if I just shop and compare the two, that in New Jersey it's a great young team. We had an excellent organization, but we're rebuilding. And when you're rebuilding, lots of times there's turnovers, or guys are just getting into finding out what type of players or what impact they can have in the NHL. And I think when you look at Nashville, there's guys that what they are, and now it's about putting them in situations that they earn, that they can succeed in, and then trying to maximize the way that they can play.
Doesn't that sound like a guy who's like, hey, the reason we didn't win in New Jersey was because we were rebuilding?
It's because we were young.
It doesn't sound like a guy who 2 years later is going to look at you in the face and say, we were picked to finish 7th, so we made the playoffs. Good enough for me.
And also, if that's the trend, this year was a quote-unquote competitive rebuild, whatever that is, but if that's the trend, if that's the area that the Predators want to go down as a rebuild, then John Hines, just told you that he couldn't find success in New Jersey because they were young and they were rebuilding.
You know what they did, by the way, John Hines last year before, in the middle of the year he got fired?
Uh-huh.
They went out and they traded for PK Subban, and they signed Wayne Simmons, and they spent a bunch of money in free agency, and they drafted Jack Hughes #1 overall because they had the expectations that year that they were going to compete. Taylor Hall coming off of his Hart Trophy. They had made the playoffs the year before. It was, this is our chance to go get them. And they spent money, and they had the high pick. Like, I would kill to have a Jack Hughes on the Predators. You know, like and he was young, you know, and you got to understand that.
Yeah.
They didn't win. And then he got fired. We talked about it yesterday. They busted out, fired John Hines' chance at the Prudential Center. So I feel like there's a narrative that's being scoped around the coach where we're all told that he's a good coach, and yet the resume doesn't back that up. And I was told, because I was really anti the John Hines hire, and I was told, like, hey, just give him a chance. And I feel like 3 years is enough to give somebody a chance. You get fired in the SEC after 3 years if you're not turning your football program around.
And he also talks about maximizing the potential of his players. Last year, that was one of the biggest problems. And, you know, credit for Matt Duchene being able to turn things around. But I look at this year that there was such a small fraction of this team, the core of this team, that really maximized their potential. And I look at these other players that last year were able to contribute, the Fabros, the Cunnins. Where's their potential? Why isn't Ellie Tolvanen's potential being maximized?
Tomasino.
Is that on Tomasino? Do they just not have as much potential as we thought? Or are they being mismanaged? And I tend to lean the latter.
So that's how I want to get started again. And I don't want to play revisionist history. And you weren't even here when this happened, when they hired John Hines.
No.
But the way they talked about this team, the way they talked about what he was coming in here to do and what he has done are two different things. Now, if you want to tell me the expectations have changed, that's fine. But I don't understand why we should act like John Hines was always here to take 7 years to rebuild the program, as opposed to he's coming in here to maximize this roster and get this puppy turned around. And I get it. COVID and last year and the weird divisions, and I get it. But again, you got to win now. Like, this is pro sports. Like, this is pro sports. And you've got to win. Adam Vingan and I were talking about this today. When the Predators beat the Avalanche in 2018, the Punch and Judy Avs, when they beat the Judys, you could see that Colorado team, and you knew, like, they're going to be pretty good. I called them puppies, and, like, the Predators Twitter fan crew got all mad. Like, they're not puppies. They're not. But I was like, they're puppies, and they're going to be freaking bulldogs.
Dobermans.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to be freaking good. I don't think Colorado walked out of this series saying, hey, give Nashville a couple years, and they're going to be right there. And that's, again, you know, I feel like we keep changing narratives here, and it's like, oh, well, we wanted you to believe this last year. Now we want you to believe this year.
Well, when you change narratives so often to fit whatever is going on, then that's just an excuse. That's not a narrative.
Let's get your phone. 615-737-1025. We are off and running. 615-737-1025. Starting on the coach. And I do think that there's a lot of recurring trends of John Hines' previous stop that are following him here. And we'll go over those and get to your phones. That's next. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman and Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
Scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
IndyCar is back for more. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix returns to Nashville August 5th through 7th. For 3 days, the streets of downtown Nashville will come alive with the sounds of music and racing. 3-day tickets are on sale now for as low as $129. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is a weekend full of action-packed excitement. Don't miss out on this year's biggest party. Visit MusicCityGP.com to buy tickets. That's MusicCityGP.com.
Get a great deal on versatile Kubota equipment today, like Kubota BX and L Series compact tractors, part of our under 100 horsepower tractor lineup rated #1 for reliability, Z Series mowers and Sidekick utility vehicles. Stop by your local Kubota dealer today. Bring home the Kubota L2501 tractor for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 60 months, plus save up to $1,100 now through June 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details.
2 locations to serve you, Columbia Kubota or Franklin Kubota. Visit them online at ColumbiaKubota.com or FranklinKubota.com.
Don't go through another summer with that awful joint pain. Call QC Kinetics now. Willie Donick here. That pain in your back, your knees, your shoulder, it can now be treated with the latest in precision medicine using natural biologic growth factors that can restore and repair damaged tissue. Really exciting stuff. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, giving you access right here to this modern-day joint pain solution. You can get lasting joint pain relief with no drugs, no steroids, no downtime, and no surgery. You may have heard Emmett Smith raving about QC Kinetics. You've read or seen other high-profile people talking about it. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics can help you get your life back. So take action now. Get a free consultation. Powerful, effective joint pain treatments with natural biologics are here. So call QC Kinetics now. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Keppel here, serial entrepreneur. I hired my first employee in 1988, but I interviewed poorly and didn't provide job training. So 6 hours after she started, I ushered the tearful employee out the door without even putting her on my payroll. Yes, I hired and fired my very first employee on the same day and broke my first payroll law. I was a terrible employer. Years later, I created Patriot Software to help employers with 1 to 100 employees not make mistakes with their payroll. Go to PatriotSoftware.com, use promo code RADIO, and get 2 months of payroll processing free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Attention, buckaroos. It's time for the Franklin Rodeo. So saddle up and hold on to your lasso. It's 3 days of bull riding, calf roping, western wear, funny clowns, and some of the most talented horses you've ever seen. Join the Stampede from May 19th to May 21st. The Franklin Rodeo is held at the Williamson County Ag Expo Park and is brought to you by Franklin Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, Williamson Medical Center, Wesley Mortgage, and Event 1FX. Tickets on sale now at franklinrodeo.com. It's a buckin' good time.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
David, you talked about talking to Ray Shero and Tom Fitzgerald and the endorsement they gave of John. What specifically did they like about John? And if they liked John so much, why did they make the choice to move on from John?
I can't answer the second part. But on the first part, just everything, his personality, his way he gets along with people, his staff, the players, the relationships. But having said that, as John just said, he's very firm. There will be no gray area. Everybody will know what their role is. When there's things that need to be corrected, he will correct them. And I think that New Jersey's loss is our gain.
New Jersey's loss is our gain, David Poyle said on January 7th of 2020. By the way, guess what happened on January 13th of 2020?
What happened on January 13th of 2020?
Ray Shero, the general manager of the New Jersey Devils, that gave John Hines his first chance, that just sold him to Poyle. And I say, he said, what did they like about him, and then why'd they move on? Well, I can't tell you the second part, but the first part, they liked everything about him. On January 13th, Ray Shero was fired as general manager of the New Jersey Devils. And I look back, ESPN had some articles at the time. They had the one of why did John Hines get fired when he got fired in New Jersey, and a couple of things that stood out to me. One of them was what took so long, and the quote from Ray Shero at the time was, quote, "We lost in every way imaginable." But the ESPN article asks, how much of this mess was John Hines' fault? Emily Kaplan writes, I think ownership views the situation this way. We, talking about the Devils, just won the number 1 pick in the 2019 NHL draft and the right to draft a generational talent in Jack Hughes. They sped up our window to contend. Our GM went out this summer and we made big splashes like trading for PK Subban and signing veteran winger Wayne Simmons to an expensive 1-year deal. We have Taylor Hall, just 2 years removed from his MVP campaign, playing for us in a contract year. We have all the tools to win, and you gave us ... a last place team. And it's kind of like, it sounds like they had gotten kind of fed up with that. Mm-hmm. Now, what Hines did not have in New Jersey was good goaltending. He had 0 goaltending. Well, here he's had Pekka Rinne and UC Saros. So I think a lot of this is the same, but it's just with better goaltending. Because they had, like, Corey Schneider at the end of his run, and they had, like, a young guy who was no good, and that kind of did him in. But then there's an article about when Ray Shero got fired. And the question is, the team made the decision to fire Ray Shero. Why now? Quote, and you tell me if this sounds like somewhere that you currently reside. And if you don't, you can say you don't. Quote, there wasn't exactly an impetus. It appears ownership got fed up with the Devils being directionless. Ray Shero didn't have a contingency plan after most of his summer moves didn't work. He didn't have a contingency plan for when goaltending didn't hold up and when he traded Taylor Hall or when he fired John Hines. The Devils were stuck in neutral after each of those moves, and it became clear this was a team that didn't quite know what it was or where it was going. Shero wouldn't admit that the Devils are entering a rebuild. However, the return from the Hall trade suggested that was the way the team was headed. I don't think ownership was particularly impressed by Shero's handling of the Taylor Hall contract talks either, because Hall is a player that ownership really, really liked.
Being planless and directionless and mishandling young talent sounds pretty familiar.
Wouldn't admit it.
But how the ownership feels toward it, we don't know.
So, but I do know this.
But the specifics of the situation, being directionless, feels very similar.
And then having, a weird contract with the talks with the star player, that I think, is part of this. But I think the bigger thing is Ray Shero wouldn't admit it. Like he wouldn't, in this it says Shero wouldn't admit that they were directionless. And when I look, and it's like, well, the trade for Taylor Hall said that they were directionless, but he won't admit it. And I look at this team, and it's like or that they were entering a rebuild. The trade for Arvidsson and the trade for Ellis. I was looking, I went over yesterday where everyone talks about these preseason rankings and how the Predators were ranked wherever. And I looked it up. Sportsnet ranked them 20th. They finished 16th. Mm-hmm. And this was entering the season, and it had key additions and key subtractions. Key additions for the Predators: Philip Myers,
Cody Glass,
David Riddick, and I think Glass. 3 regular guys. Key losses for the team: Pekka Rinne, Victor Arvidsson, Ryan Ellis. That doesn't make any sense.
When you're not filling the holes that you created for yourself.
Unless
you have a plan for the future. Unless you get rid of players that might be dead money, dead weight, not doing anything for your franchise, and you have a plan moving forward, and you get things in return that fit that plan, whether that be draft picks, whether that be players that can contribute right now, whether that be prospects, whatever your plan is, if you just stick to it. But a competitive rebuild isn't a plan.
One of my things that I liked about this was, what was the highlight of John Hines' time in New Jersey? Greg Wyshynski writes, the run to the last wild card seed in 2017-18. On one hand, it was a miraculous role for the Devils, who went on a 7-0-1 run to secure the final spot in the postseason, highlighted by Hall's Hart Trophy clinching 17 points in 9 games and an 8-game unbeaten streak for goalie Keith Kincaid. On the other hand, the Devils needed a miracle to make the playoffs once under Hines during his 5 seasons. I thought that last year's run to the playoffs at the end of the season, the way they turned things around, that was kind of miraculous. And you got to tip your cap for that. And I do to Hines.
We did last season. We did tip our cap to John Hines last season for being able to turn things around and make that a playoff team. But that's not enough. Doing that one season is not enough.
And so it just feels like what he was brought in for, he hasn't accomplished. And that, I was, you can tell from the questions I asked when they hired him, that I was very cognizant about what had happened in New Jersey without knowing specifics. And I still don't know the specifics. I just know what I read. But I was concerned. And everybody told me, hey, it won't be that way. It's different. It's not that way. And yet the more you read into it and the more you see what's happened, I think that the Predators have become more New Jersey than John Hines has fulfilled what people were selling when he got hired.
But I do wonder, are they looking at it like we committed ourselves to a rebuild this past season, so we haven't given John Hines enough time to actually rebuild?
But they're not, it doesn't add up for a rebuild. A rebuild, to me, if the Predators were going to rebuild.
A rebuild to me is stripping what you got and replacing it.
A rebuild would mean that UC Saros is on the trading block. that Saros is probably out of here, Ekholm's probably out of here, Duchesne's probably out of here. Yeah, you don't re-sign Mikhail Granlund to a contract.
You don't re-sign Philip Forsberg.
You would have traded Philip Forsberg. Like, that's...
Get something legitimate in return.
That is what a rebuild is. This team, we can go over the term competitive rebuild all we want. I don't know what that means. I don't...
It means treading water. That's what it means.
But that's not how you get good in sports.
No.
And I keep going back to this, though. Every time you have a Hines discussion, it goes back into, well, is it Poyle's fault that the roster's not good enough, and that's the problem? And I would agree that is the big problem.
That's part of the problem.
That is problem number one. But I'm arguing
the management of what he has been underwhelming.
I just don't think I was concerned that what was going to happen was they were going to hire the coach from New Jersey, and you were going to become New Jersey. And it just seems, correct me if I'm wrong, that it feels like it's more of, what ESPN says were the problems in New Jersey are the problems here, more so than he's going to take this team that's kind of lost its way, and he's going to get the most out of these players, and this team, on they go.
More so than the solutions.
Let's get to your phones on it next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. I see you loading up, and boy, people are not happy. 615-737-1025. Plus, Roman Yossi said something yesterday that I find very interesting, and I wish I was there for, because the follow-up is more important than what he actually said. Explain that next. Stillman & Company right here. Caroline, tell us about Caesars Sportsbook.
It is time for the Caesars Sportsbook Report. Now, Caesars Sportsbook is giving out free first bet insurance for all new users up to $1,100. Just download the app and use promo code RadioCZR. One word, RadioCZR, and then place your first bet. And if you win on that first bet, then congratulations, you got a little bit more money in your pocket. But if not, then you'll get your wager back as a free bet. And if you need something to place that first bet on, look at the Golden State Grizzlies game tonight. I am actually going to take the Golden State to win it -4 with -110 odds on the Caesars Sportsbook app. I think without Ja, the Grizz are really going to struggle. But hey, that's my take. Do it how you want to do it, and do it with the Caesars Sportsbook app. Must be 21 and physically present in Tennessee. New users only. Bet amount of qualifying wager returned only if wager is settled as a loss. Paid as a single bet credit. Must be used within 14 days. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Caesars Sportsbook. Download it, people.
Hey, I'm Ryan Johansson, and this is Smashville.
Back to Johansson, and Johansson tips it in with one hand on the stick.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
What if you could be debt-free in 3 weeks? Hey, Willie Donick here. My friends at Loan Pronto are helping people do it every day. It's Loan Pronto's Debt Consolidation Home Refi, wiping out tens of thousands in credit card debt. Listen, your home's value is way up. You can refinance now, take money out to pay off all your credit cards, eliminate PMI charges, pay off personal loans, or other high-interest debt. One local couple had over $50,000 in credit card debt. Loan Pronto did a debt consolidation refi. And even though their mortgage rate went up a tad, they cut their monthly payments by $900. Why pay 20% interest when you can consolidate it to one low payment with a mortgage APR in the 3s? Homeowners who do it save an average of $800 a month. Do it now and even skip your next house payment altogether. That's what I call financial freedom. Call Loan Pronto now. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
There are jewelry stores, and then there's Genesis Diamonds, the cutting-edge industry leader, the pioneer. It's no secret that jewelry stores across America watch what Genesis is doing. Genesis was the first to offer a free lifetime warranty, the first to offer a 110% diamond upgrade guarantee, the first to offer aggressive long-term zero-interest financing. And Genesis is always on the cutting edge in design and fashion. The styles other jewelers say are new and exciting were new and exciting for us 4 years ago. Genesis has the fashion-forward brands other stores aren't even allowed to carry. It's no wonder you see jewelers from other cities coming to Genesis to see what we're all about, and even buy their wives' jewelry from us. For selection, quality, service, warranties, and guarantees, Genesis leads. Others follow. So for diamonds, engagement rings, exclusive designer jewelry for any occasion, don't compromise. Come to the jeweler that sets the industry standards year after year. Genesis Diamonds and pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hey, this is Bomani Jones. What's your favorite podcast? Let me tell you why that'll be number 2 after you listen to mine. 3 times a week, I'm going to challenge you to keep up with me as I discuss topics from the latest in technology and music, and people getting dunked on. Also, you'll get the very best analysis of the games, and we watch them with encyclopedic level historical connection. Plus, we have got a community of guests that you'll feel like are your closest friends in no time. Listen and subscribe to The Right Time with Bomani Jones Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, this is John Hines, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
How do you feel about the direction of the team? Obviously, you guys have a lot of young guys, but you have guys like yourself and Matt that are all in the prime of their careers. As you kind of step back and look at this year, how do you feel about the direction that you guys are headed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been good. Like you said, this year there's so many young guys that came in and made a huge impact. A lot of guys playing their first year, which is not always easy. First time you play 82 games, playoff series, it's tough, and those guys did an amazing job. So I think there's a lot of guys that come in next year with a little bit more experience, and hopefully even more young kids that can make an impact like this year. And obviously our core is a little older, but I think a lot of guys had good years this year, and I think we can definitely build on that.
There you go. That was Roman Josi. And I just know, and it's not just the sweeping, but the sweeping obviously adds to this. The things that I heard the players say yesterday were just like, wow. You know what I mean? Like that thing about how do you like the direction of the team? Oh, man, I think the direction of the team's, I think we're heading the right direction. I think, we got the young players and we got and normally the fans buy what's being sold to them. Like, normally I'm the one who's, like, trying to have to argue against what the fans want to believe. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think the fans are listening to this right now. I don't think the fans like this. I do want to get to what Josi said about John Hines. Since we're starting today on the coach, he was asked about John Hines. Here's what Roman Josi said.
I think he gave us an identity as a team, and I think that was the one thing when he came in. We were always talking about getting back to identity as a team, and I felt like we found that, especially this year. Just coming in right from training camp, that was always the message on how we have to play, and I think we did that for most of the year, and I think that's something he brought in, and something he had like this year with the training camp and everything, the messaging in training camp. He had a little bit more time, and I think that was a big part for us coming into this year of having that identity and playing up to it as much as we can.
Okay, so he said identity 3 times in that clip.
Mm-hmm.
What's the identity of the Predators?
It's a good question because it's a buzzword that they use a lot. Tough. Playing tough, being tough to play.
Were they tough to play?
I think that's what they want their identity to be. I think that's what they've kind of built up in the locker room, that this is who we are and this is what we're going to be. But in the past month and a half, 2 months, they haven't stuck to that. They can't be that identity because they don't have it left in the tank anymore. They can't be tough. They can't play tough anymore. They can't be tough to play against because they just don't have it in them. So when you can't maintain that identity for 82 plus games and throughout the playoffs and in order to make a run for the cup, then that can't be your identity anymore, because then that's not a Stanley Cup identity.
I mean, I would say this. I know what they want the identity to be.
Toughness.
But I know what right now what the league thinks of the Predators. They want the identity to be that the Nashville Predators are an aggressive, forechecking, physical team that forces you to really work to get the puck out of your own zone and get it through the neutral zone and enter the offensive zone, and that they're essentially, a team that generates offense with great defense. That's what they want to be. But that's not what they are. What they are is the most penalized team in the league. They led the league in major penalties. And they're a team that led the league in penalties and has a horrendous penalty kill.
And that's the thing, is they may look at it and say, yeah, we'll be penalized, but that's just what comes with being a tough team. Then you have to be able to kill off penalties.
I think the Predators are a team that has, and this is why I think they finished where they finished. I think they have a solid yet unspectacular group of role players. Guys like Sissons and Trennan and Jeannot and those guys. They're not deep at all on defense. What used to be the strength of this team, the depth on defense, it's really Josi and whatever was wrong with Ekholm this year, but then the rest of it's just all whatever. I mean, minor league, you can go get that. Carrier, you can get him anywhere. So they don't have the defense anymore. But I think the identity of the team is a team that is incredibly average with a handful of really talented players who have to carry the team in order for them to beat anybody. Unfortunately, they can't beat good teams because that's not anybody. Like in order to beat Seattle, which they did not do this season, but in order to beat Seattle, unless they went up there and won, I think they played, I know they lost there and I know they lost here. I don't know if they played another game that I must have missed, but whatever. But in order to beat those teams, you need Matt Duchene to score. You need Philip Forsberg to score. You need Saros to play great in net. You need those Yossi to make plays, whatever. But it's almost like if the Stars don't carry the team, they have no chance. And against the good teams, your stars are not actually stars in the league other than Yossi and Saros. You know, I think the term all-star, gets thrown around, however, and the Predators have a handful of guys who have made the all-star team in their career. But we have to remember that James Neal made the all-star team too. So, Forsberg has made an all-star team. Duchene, I think, has made either one or two all-star teams in his career. Johansson made an all-star team. But really, the consistent all-stars of the Predators are Roman Josi and Juuse Saros, who made his first all-star team last year, but it was his first year starting, and I'll throw him in there. Well, that's not good enough when you play teams that have, Cale Makar and have Nathan McKinnon. Those are stars. You watched last night. Watch Edmonton last night. Stars.
But
watch Toronto last night. Stars.
How do you get stars?
I know. And but again, when it comes to identity of the team, I know what they want it to be. They want to out-effort and out-tough the opponents that have better players, which does work, but not in the playoffs when you've been doing it the whole season, but it especially doesn't work in the playoffs. And I go back to Hines' resume. There's nothing on there that would say that this works. And again, that's what they want the identity to be. And that is not what they are. And so when your identity of what you want it to be is not what you are, you can't just say that word over and over again. You actually have to go out there and do it. And I just feel like this team hasn't done that. Let's go to your phones as promised. 615-737-1025 starting today on the coach. Luther has been waiting patiently. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Go ahead, Luther.
Jared, indulge me for a second, if you please. Now, isn't this kind of what we say about the Titans, Joe? Kind of, in a roundabout way? That our coaching is good, but what are we missing? Because it's 2019, AFC Championship game in the last couple of times, divisional playoff losses, both
I think we know. I think we know what the problem with the Titans is. The problem
we
is
know what
the
it
quarterback.
Is. Well, yeah, and that's what I'm kind of thinking here, that at what point do we say, okay, who do we sacrifice and how do we fix this problem? Because if it's the GM's fault, then don't you think Boyle has been in that position longer than he should have been? And John Hines, I mean, you're right. What has he done? What kind of a coach is he? A defensive-minded coach, I think, is what I've heard he's supposed to be?
I mean, I don't even know what kind of coach he is.
Well, whatever kind of coach, whatever his title.
Like Barry Trotz,
team wasn't good enough to have
Barry
a
Trotz,
defensive-minded
that
coach.
was a defensive coach.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. And when Colorado came in here on Monday night, when you were talking about when they swept us, yeah, they didn't not only just sweep us, they skated off our rink into the locker room, laughed at us, and then we're laughing all the way back to Denver. And they're just sitting there chilling, waiting to see if they get Minnesota or if they get St. Louis in the next round.
I will say
And
this,
they will have
Luther,
almost
and
a
I
week
appreciate
worth
your
of
call. I will say this. If I was Colorado, I'd be scared to death right now.
Because this Minnesota-St. Louis series is
intense.
tough.
It's intense. So I would be scared to death because both Minnesota and St. Louis are good.
Mm-hmm.
They're physical, and they can score the puck. Now, goaltending, certainly much more of a question in St. Louis than it is in Minnesota. But I go back to the fact that the Avalanche could have had feet on the coffee table in this series. This was not, outside of Game 2, this was not an intense series. It was not a hard series for them to win. They didn't have to overly exert themselves. This is something that always worries me when you're the number one seed in the NFL, when you play bad teams down the stretch. And the Titans kind of ran into this, where they played a bad Dolphins team, then they played a bad Texans team, then they had a week off, Then they got the Bengals, who had just played a tough game right there to the end with the Raiders. And so I always worry about this when a team has the bye and they're playing bad teams because they kind of loosen up a little bit. And then all of a sudden you've got another team that has been just playing intense. And they come in ready to rock and roll. Now, sometimes that team's worn out. I think that's what happened to Winnipeg in 2017 against Vegas, or 2018 against Vegas. But I think for the most part, like if I was Colorado, I'd be scared to death because the Predators did not present a challenge to them. And the intensity of this other series is serious. And so that would scare me. What do we have in our text line? 615-737-1025.
One texter checks into the text line and says, how can David Poile be the winningest GM in NHL history and have no cups? 72 years old. He can't draft a big boy forward, and I can't trust him to build a Stanley Cup contending team anymore.
So what I'm going to say is good for the Predators, but it may come off as bad. So I want to say this as it is good. Let's use Vanderbilt as the counterpoint here.
Okay.
Vanderbilt had 3 years of Scottie Pippen Jr., who I believe was the SEC preseason player of the year and was all SEC. And Scottie Pippen,
leading scorer in the SEC in the regular season.
He's a really good basketball player.
Yes.
They wasted 3 years of Scottie Pippen's career. They accomplished nothing with Scottie Pippen Jr. on their team. They've made no NCAA tournaments. They won no NCAA tournament games. They didn't win the SEC. They didn't compete in the SEC. They didn't do anything. So they wasted 3 years of Scottie Pippen's career, and nobody here cares. Now, when I was a kid, it was the other way around. It was, with the Predators, they played games, and if you had tickets, you went, but you weren't going at it. I don't ever remember, honestly, like going to my parents other than like the first time that we went to a game after that. I don't ever remember being like, can we go to the hockey game? I mean, I didn't even think about it, honestly. It just didn't matter. So David Poile, and hockey's getting more popular if you look at the TV ratings nationally for these playoff games.
Yeah.
But especially in town, it's gotten way more popular. And so this is good for the Predators because it's good to have the fans be upset. Like, it is good to have fans be furious. Fans were furious with Ryan Tannehill after the playoff game, and they're furious with the Predators right now. And they should be. But I don't think David Poile's used to that because back in the day, they would lose in the playoffs, and we knew that the Predators didn't have the same budgets as the other teams. And so it was kind of like, hey, you tried. Kind of like Vandy football. Hey, you tried. Way to go. Mm-hmm. But people weren't passionate about it, so they didn't get upset about it. And people understood the disadvantages that Barry Trotz and David Poile had to deal with, so they kind of gave it a pass. Well, money is not a problem around here. And the desire to win is very much on people's minds. Like, that is what people want around here. So I think that for the most part, because hockey didn't have the same place in Nashville that it's had over the last 7, 8, 10 years, really since 2011, so the last 10 years, since hockey has a new place around here, I think the people want more. And that's how you survive is ownership changes and consistent turmoil and lack of pressure because people don't have the same passion that they have now. And I think those things allow you to sit there, and excuse the not winning. The Predators in the early days and the Craig Leopold days and the shortly after Craig Leopold days, they could not compete. Like, it would not have been fair. It would be like asking the Kansas City Royals with their budget to compete against the Yankees. It's just not going to happen. And so, they tried that 1 year with Forsberg and Correa and those guys, and then the ownership, they had to blow it all up. And so that, to sit there and act like all these years are the same for David, that's not fair. But over the last 10 years, David has had everything at his advantage. And the team made it to one Cup final. And I think it's okay to ask for more. 615-737-1025. We're back to your phone calls next. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Do you want to help the families of soldiers who gave the ultimate sacrifice? Then join ESPN 1025 and 1063 The Game for the Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Folds of Honor, May 16th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs to support a great cause. Sign up or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Hot and humid this afternoon. High temperature of 90 would tie the record high. Heat index will put us up around 94, and a few isolated showers will also be possible.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hi guys, are you struggling with erectile dysfunction and sick of the pills? Well, today, Wednesday, May 11th, we're doing something special. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy, shown by Cambridge to repair blood vessels and get rid of ED at its core. If you're ready to put a stop to your erectile dysfunction, call us now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also include something unique that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. And today only, we're offering 3 additional treatments to our patients free. This means that if you notice results fading, we'll retreat you free of charge. This is unprecedented and worth $650. Call today, Wednesday, and qualify free. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 615-576-5000.
Empire Auto Parts has opened a brand new location in Nashville, Tennessee. They're hosting a hiring event with giveaways, sign-on bonuses, and more happening at Holiday Inn Express at the Crossings, 201 Crossings Place, May 16th through 20th from 9 a.m. to noon or 2 to 5. Empire Auto Parts offers hourly pay, full benefits, 401k matching, and more. Current job openings for warehouse associate, delivery drivers, customer service agents, account managers, and dispatchers. Apply now on Indeed at Empire Auto Parts Inc. Jobs or visit their website at EmpireAutoParts.com.
Finishing jobs on time, never being idle, and powerful equipment. Meade has the John Deere excavating equipment and the smart grade technology solutions for you and your business. Power your business with a new, used, or rented excavator and get the performance you expect and service you can rely on. Call us today for the equipment built as tough and reliable as you, or visit us at meadtractor.com. That's meadtractor.com.
If you snore, it may be a sign of a more serious, possibly life-threatening condition. Most people think of snoring as a nuisance, but it's a much more serious medical condition than you think. Snoring has been associated with chest pain, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, chronic pain, obesity, headaches, and sore throat. Take a listen to what some of our patients are saying about the revolutionary Vivo system.
Right after I started using it, I noticed the results really, especially with the snoring. My sleep apnea episodes are a fraction of what they were before. This product's phenomenal. It changed my life.
I am 100% happy that I did this, and I'm thankful every day that I had it.
If you're curious about our sleep devices, call now for a sleep consultation. Don't let your spouse have to sleep in the guest room, and don't risk the severe health complications of snoring and sleep apnea.
Dr. Kelly Rice is certified to provide the Vivo system to open the airway for a better night's sleep. Call 615-373-4488 or go to BrentwoodSleepApnea.com to see which therapy can work best for you.
Individual results may vary. Always seek the advice of your health provider with any questions regarding a medical condition.
Meshing journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robby Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robby and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
It's disappointing right now, but when you look at this season, what do you take away from it, knowing kind of exactly where you guys were picked in the preseason, and then you played in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get a lot of credit, obviously, from the outside, and I think the one thing I'm proud of this team. I mean, we worked hard all year. We just put our heads down and worked, and I think that's the one thing we can be proud of. The work ethic was always there, and right now it's disappointing, obviously, going out 4-0.
There you go. That was Roman Yossi after the game on the TV broadcast. Nobody picked us. Nobody picked us. Philip Forsberg, you talked. So I think these players believe this. You know what I mean? Like, and Vrabel does this too.
I don't know, though, because what are they going to say?
Again, Sportsnet's preseason power rankings, the Predators were 20th. Everybody ahead of them is either still playing hockey or, in the case of Montreal, Winnipeg, and New York, they have moved on from the coach. Vegas and Vancouver have not decided what they're doing with their coach. So everybody that was ahead of the Predators that did make it, they were supposed to be 20th. They ended up 16th, and everybody ahead of them has coach issues. Now, here's what Philip Forsberg said yesterday that I literally double-taked.
I'm proud of the guys. Like I said, you see the team going in the right direction. Nobody had us going to the playoffs. Nobody had us pushing for anything, but basically to beat Arizona, for the bottom spot in the division. I thought we did a lot of good things that we can build on. As every time we stand here, it's up to every individual to come back ready to go and be better.
Arizona?
Who picked them to be at the bottom of the division?
Again, 20th. And again, the division. St. Louis was 19th in this preseason Sportsnet poll. St. Louis was 19th. So I guess they were picked at the bottom. Chicago was picked 24th. I mean, there's one team that can sit there and say, nobody picked us. Calgary, who was picked 26th behind Seattle. Calgary won their division. They can say, nobody picked us. But the Predators to sit there and be like, nobody picked us? I heard the midday show today yelling at somebody being like, did you pick them to make the playoffs? So you know what I've decided?
What?
Guess what? I picked them to make the playoffs this year.
I think I did too. But also,
I'm lying. I have no idea if I picked them or not.
I
don't remember. I don't remember. And you know why I don't remember?
Because it doesn't matter.
Because it doesn't freaking matter.
But I feel like you probably did because you say everybody makes the playoffs.
Half the league makes the playoffs. If you don't make the playoffs, you fire the coach, apparently, according to this. Let's go to your phones as promised, 615-737-1025. Paul is up next here on David Poyle. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Jared. First, I appreciate your honesty about the assessment of the team, not being a rah-rah guy. I'm not trying to have a take. This is a genuine question. I do not know, but I'm curious if you as to what the truth is. Are general managers typically in their 70s with no kind of hierarchy? It seems like the trend is analytic-driven and younger guys. I don't follow teams outside of our local teams enough to know. I know that I think the Leafs have a really young one, Arizona maybe. I don't know, but is this situation with David Poyle common? Someone that age that kind of has what at least looks like from the outside, it's not a lot of accountability, but just maybe just age in general.
Okay, so I appreciate your call, Paul. Like, one thing that I try to avoid doing is talking about David Poyle's age because at some point I'll be 72 too. So like I try not to do that. I mean, look, I'll say this. The years that Floyd was on the radio with us, I thought Floyd had the cognitive ability to be able to run the Titans. Like, and not that he wanted it or whatever, but I have a pretty strong feeling.
Age doesn't always go along with competency.
You worry about it with Belichick?
No.
I kind of do.
Why?
Because I think Bill is like.
I think it's hard-headedness.
I think Bill's got a little lazy, like for Bill.
Did he get lazy or does he just no longer have Tom Brady?
I think he got a little lazy for Bill. Like the draft things. But then again,
for Bill, like with every argument that you make about him, my counter argument is going to be, is it that or was it Brady?
So I just put in Kevin Cheveldayoff, who is in Winnipeg, and he's kind of like David. Like the fans want them to fire Cheveldayoff, and they won't do it, and they just gave him a 3-year extension. He's 52. So
the average, I Googled it, the average age of an NHL GM is 54.6 years old.
But then again, like Jeremy Rutherford, he's old. And
Lou Lamoriello's 77.
Yeah, but Lamoriello, I mean, that's a different cat. But Rutherford is old, and Kyle Dubas, the general manager of Toronto, like literally looks like he went to high school with me.
The Coyotes GM is like an infant.
Now, that is the worst run organization maybe in pro sports.
Well, he is 30 years old.
So I would be like me running the team, which I think
younger than you.
Which I think I could do an okay job.
And again, age doesn't always mean competency, but.
What do we have in the text line?
One texter texts in and says, I think what happened is that Saros played lights out all season and covered a lot of mistakes. When he went down, it was over, and it just shows how good he really was this season.
He was not playing well before he got hurt.
And I did, because we've always said, he just got overworked. And that's really what it seemed like. When he was playing lights out, then you get to a certain point in the season and you just can't play it anymore. And he said he was fine.
Yeah, but
I don't know if he's just saying that.
I mean, every good player is like, I'm good, coach. That's where, like, a lot of times you either need to believe your players, like, have, like, the faith that your players will be honest with you. or you got to be able to be the one to say, no. You know, it's like baseball.
But neither of those things happen.
Can you give me another inning? I can give you another inning, coach.
But that's it.
You know, I can go, coach. I mean, I had a buddy that heard a pop when he threw a pitch. He was at AAA. He pitched in the big leagues for a while. He was at AAA, and he heard a pop when he pitched. And he was like, well, there's 2 outs, and they're getting a guy loose in the bullpen, so let me just get this guy out, and then I'll tell him at the end of the inning.
Famous last words.
Like, the next pitch was, like, done.
Yeah.
And so, like, these guys always try to tough it out. These guys, every weight session they've done their entire lives where they're working out, there's a coach that's like, give me one more. Give me one more. So when Saros is like, oh, if I had a problem, I'd have told the coaches. I'm like, dude.
I understand that there's a good bit of lying there. But isn't that on the coaching staff to say, no
yes,
more?
Absolutely. The coaching staff has to play him less in the future.
Yes.
Absolutely. Adam Vingan lets me know that Jim Rutherford is the general manager in Vancouver. Jeremy Rutherford covers the Blues for The Athletic.
Okay.
So get my hockey
your Jay Rutherfords mixed up.
My Jay Rutherford's mixed up. 615-737-1025. Let me start by saying this. I love Willie Donick with all of my heart. And that is 100% true. And I love Willie. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great broadcaster. I think he truly, honestly, I think in his heart, the arguments he makes, he 100% believes them, and I'm not saying, that he's wrong. I'm saying I disagree. He explains the plan that the Predators are on, and we'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company right here. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
From elegant to contemporary, Social Furniture has it all. And right now, get no interest financing on any purchase through Memorial Day. Save hundreds, even thousands on top brand name bedroom suites, living room and dining sets. Thousands of combinations in stock, ready for immediate delivery. All colors and styles are designer brand names such as Woodhouse, Sealy, Serta, Kincaid, Bernhardt, Stearns & Foster, and Bassett. Shop local, shop social. Social Furniture opens 7 days a week on the west side on Charlotte Avenue in the Richland Creek Shopping Center.
Out on the trail today, I noticed the signs of spring. A purple lilac, a monarch butterfly, crisp, cool air, and fresh, bright sunshine. And all this beauty puts me in the mood to head over to my favorite adult beverage depot, Red Spirits and Wine, where I can load up the wagon with the best wines, whiskey, and brews to wet my whistle. At Red, you'll always find the best selection and value, but their Cracker Jack crew is flat out second to none. Just square dealing folks and straight shooters with great recommendations, and they never come off like some of those big talking fancy pantsers that are just totally full of, well, let's just say fertilizer. Red Spirits and Wine is the only place I do my trading, and once you've seen Red, there just ain't no sense in looking elsewhere. It's like British pop singer Billy Ocean once said, no more love on the run. Red Spirits and Wine is the real deal. Open 7 days a week at Highway 70 South and Old Hickory Boulevard. And follow Red on Facebook and Instagram as well. We'll see you at Red.
With all the new people moving here recently, we thought it'd be a good idea to explain Genesis Diamonds. If you've lived here a while, you know all this, so bear with us. Genesis Diamonds is not an ordinary jewelry store. It was started decades ago by a major diamond wholesaler based in Tel Aviv. He was the diamond supplier for hundreds of upscale jewelry stores. Then he decided to start selling direct to the public at prices that undercut traditional jewelers in a big way. This no middleman approach caught on fast and disrupted the traditional jewelry business model forever. Today, Genesis Diamonds continues that extraordinary value promise. With the highest quality diamonds, the lowest prices, the strongest guarantees, exceptional service, and a mind-blowing selection of fine diamonds and exclusive designer jewelry. So if you've just moved here from New York or California or wherever, we invite you to discover the secret the locals are well aware of. Genesis Diamonds. Just another great reason you made the move to this extraordinary place we're proud to call home.
Realizing Geico is your one-stop shop for all your insurance needs is like realizing you can just toss the whole measuring cup into the washer, so it won't get gunked up with laundry detergent.
I guess it doesn't work for coffee mugs, huh?
It's something that's been right in front of you this whole time, like how Geico offers 24/7 emergency roadside service to help you when you need it most. Or how athletic wristbands aren't for your wrists, they're for wiping sweat off your forehead.
Great. So, what are headbands for?
80s night at the dance club. Woo!
It's something you can't believe you never realized before, like how Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and car insurance, with even more ways to save when you add boat, motorcycle, and RV insurance, or how a pony is its own animal and not just a baby horse.
So, what's a baby pony called?
Getting more ways to save. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN,
102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
a Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So I like controversy.
Oh, I know.
Like, I like
I don't think
controversy.
that's new information to anybody who's been listening for longer than a few minutes.
So the midday show the last couple of days has been freaking awesome. Because it's been like them versus the callers, and I like that stuff. Like, I mean, I'm sorry.
It's
like,
fun.
I like the Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp show, and I know that it's ridiculous. I get it. The other day, they had an argument of where Skip named all the quarterbacks who were better, or Baker Mayfield was better than, and it was actually like, and I'm watching this, and it was so stupid, and I'm like, people love this.
Like the Mount Rushmore discussion that they had.
Oh.
When I've said so many times that I just can't stand Mount Rushmore discussions. And then I
Oh.
said, LeBron, really? And
Yes.
I'm like, dang it. I'm
Of
such
course,
a sucker.
you fell into the trap.
I did.
And so, and the midday show does not purport itself like a Skip Bayless show. But I love that stuff. Like, that's why of all the Sirius XM channels, I'm on Mad Dog Radio, because it's the crazy channel. So the callers and the midday show, it's been great. So I was sitting there in my car today, and Willie was fired up. So for the last 2 days, Willie has been talking about how the Predators are going according to plan. And again, we can go over the competitive rebuild thing that David Poyle said and what led to it, which we will in a second. But for the last couple days, and Willie got into this with Adam Vengen yesterday, which was great radio. It was great radio. So Willie got into this with Adam Vengen yesterday and then was getting into it with callers today. And I tweeted out listening to them, and I was like, what's the plan? Because Willie kept talking about how it's going according to plan. So Willie did lay out on Darren, Donick, and Chase today what the plan for the Predators is. Here's what Willie said.
Have they been consistent with that messaging for the entire year? From last offseason, from the season before that? They didn't call it as such 2 years ago. But for 2 years, they have talked about exactly what the plan is, competitive transition. I understand if you think that change for the sake of change is warranted, that I'll buy that strategy. I don't agree with it, but I can see that line of thinking. But don't tell me they don't have a plan. That is absolutely wrong. The competitive transition, I can go through all of the things. The previous caller, Rebecca, brought up a couple of trades. They traded some older players, Ryan Ellis, Victor Arvidsson, who had big long-term contracts, for younger players. They went from one of the oldest teams in the league to one of the youngest teams in the league. That's competitive transition. They let the younger players play in the key games down the stretch. They didn't trade for veterans at the deadline. They didn't spend to the cap. You know why? Because they stuck with the plan. So I just don't buy that they don't have a plan.
So that's like the big point. And then I think, and Elijah cut these, but it was great radio. I would say that I understand the theory surrounding the plan, but I didn't see – well, I don't agree with it at all. But I also didn't see the plan actually used in the pattern in which if you were going through this decision – I mean, to me it sounds like the plan means don't stink terribly, but don't do the things that it takes in order to be good. That's in my opinion, if this is the plan, where you trade a second-round pick for Jeremy Lauzon and you're, scratching young players in the playoffs, which they did, or you're taking a risk on every Cody Glass and whatever, or you're dumping every old inexpensive or old contract, Ellis, Arvidsson. You tried to get rid of Johansson and Duchesne. Like, if you're doing all of that, then I think what you're doing is your plan is to not be good and not be terrible. And it just doesn't – if that's the plan, to not be good but also not be terrible, that's fine. But the people of this town are not going to be interested in that.
And Willie citing the Arvidsson and Ellis trades. At what point is that following a plan? And at what point is that just smart hockey, getting rid of older guys that are too expensive and too hurt? I mean, I understand that trading them for younger players for picks or prospects goes along with that kind of transitional mentality of getting younger. But to me, if you're going to have an oxymoronic plan like a competitive rebuild, I don't think those two things can go together. Like, to me, that's just treading water. Then those are going to be your results. That you're going to always be good enough, but you're never going to be great.
And I don't think even the teams that end up there, I don't think the teams that end up there try to end up there. You know what I mean?
But like treading water?
Yeah, like I
don't think that's what they want to do.
Let's use the Minnesota
think
Vikings.
That's going to be the result no matter what.
Let's use the Minnesota Vikings as an example.
Okay.
They keep doing the same thing with Kirk Cousins over and over and over again. The Minnesota Vikings are going to stay the Minnesota Vikings,
yes.
which means they're never going to compete with the Packers, but they're not going to be Jacksonville.
Correct.
Like, you're going to be,
they're going to be competitive enough, but they're not going to be Super Bowl favorites.
And Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, and so they'll win games. And, like, if they play the Titans, like, there's a legitimate chance the Titans can lose to that team, but they're not going to be a great team. And, I mean, I don't think Minnesota got to the NFC Championship game, lost with Case Keenum at quarterback, and then thought that Kirk Cousins was the missing piece to the puzzle and signed him to a contract to come in there, and they just never got back. Like, when the Predators signed Matt Duchene, they looked at their team as a division winner that lost to Dallas and said, we were good, but we were awful on offense, and our power play was horrendous, and so let's go sign the best offensive player available, Matt Duchene, and let's fix the offense and get back to the cup. Like, I didn't totally buy that because I didn't think Matt Duchene was that good.
But that's a plan.
But at least I understand where you're going. If you're telling me, hey, we want to rebuild this team, and then you turn around and you trade a second-round pick for a third-pair defenseman, that does not make any sense to me. I don't care that the guy's 25 years old. The guy in the last 4 years in the NHL averages 32 games a year. That's how little he's played. Boston let him go for nothing. Seattle, I mean, I doubt they actually wanted him. And so they end up trading a second-round pick, which is Roman Josi or Shea Weber. You trade a second-round pick for Jeremy Lauzon. That does not make any sense. And maybe, I don't believe this, but maybe the plan is, hey, let's just get to the playoffs, and don't worry about what happens in the playoffs, and whatever happens, don't be bad enough to get a Cale Makar. Don't be bad enough to get a Nathan McKinnon. You have to pick first overall to get Nathan McKinnon.
But at what point is just making the playoffs not good enough anymore?
Well, I'm going to tell you where it is.
At what point are you sick of being a bridesmaid? You want to be a bride?
I'm going to tell you where it is for us, like on this show, last year. Like, that's where it was not good enough. And so, I mean, if that's again, when you say, like, hey, they have a plan. Okay, so they want to move off old guys. So they move off of Turris. They move off of Watson. They move off of Arvidsson and Ellis. But they still want to compete. So they made the playoffs so everybody be happy. My question is, what are the fruits of this competitive rebuild? Where's the rebuild? I can question the compete because the compete part of it is, did you really compete because you just got smoked? And down the stretch, you did not play, tough with any of those playoff teams. You won 2 games in shootouts, against playoff teams, and other playoff teams smoked you.
But
Edmonton
some may say that
smoked
they
you.
were competitive enough to make the playoffs, and that's the intention.
So if that's all that matters, that's the competitive part. So check that box. Again, they were not competitive in my opinion, and they were not competitive in these playoffs. They were not competitive in these playoffs.
No, they were not.
Go ahead and check that. The rebuild part, I wonder this. Where do the young players come from? And I'm not talking about the average young players. I was thinking about this with Tanner Jeannot yesterday. Tanner Jeannot is a bottom six forward. Like, I know he scored goals this year, but you're never going to play Tanner Jeannot on your top line. That's a checking line guy. Like, you want that line of Sissons, Jeannot, and Trennan. That's a great third line. They give you a little bit of offense. They're great defensively.
Physical.
They win faceoffs. Like, they're penalty killers. That's what you want. Like, the Predators need top six forwards. They need Eeli Tolvanen, like, to be a star. He won't be. They need Philip Tomasino to be a top six player. Like, again, when there's a humongous difference between top six and bottom six. And what you can't do is what they did, which is put young offensive forwards in your bottom six. It doesn't make any sense. But that's what they did. And so where is the path to the young players? Because when you get rid of the old guys that you don't want, like Turris and Watson and Arvidsson and Ellis and Subban, you don't get any good young players in return. And you don't get any picks that are high enough to become good young players.
You need the Traylon Burks to your age.
You have to trade something that somebody else wants. And so they're not doing that. They're not willing to trade something that somebody else wants, but that's what you have to do. Like, that's what Boston did in order
But
to
that's
get.
a very difficult move to make.
That's what they did in order to get Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton. Was they traded Phil Kessel, a big boy goal scoring, and I mean I'm talking literally big boy, a big boy goal scoring forward for 2 first-round picks, and it ended up being Seguin and Dougie Hamilton. And like again, they got to a cup final. To do it. I looked it up today, going back to this plan. I looked up today thehockeywriters.com, and this was the midseason top 100 prospects. And you know how I feel about Preds prospects.
Do it on your own time.
Do it on your own time. But again, if we're talking about rebuilding, they had 3 of the top 100. 79, Fedor Svechkov.
Love him.
They had 69, Zachary Leroux, and this guy sounds like a perfect bottom six forward, honestly. And remember, this is a team.
What do you know about Zachary Leroux?
This is the Hockey Writers. It almost seems like the Predators have secretly been loading up on their pipeline with guys like Yaroslav Oskarov, Luke Evangelista, and now Leroux. Another prospect signed by the Predators to an entry-level deal. He's a blue-collar type player that relies on his physicality to be successful. He's able to finish but can also dish the puck and be a presence at both ends of the ice. Leroux, while working his way up our list, could impress the Pred staff quicker than we think. The blue-collar physicality, that's a bottom six guy.
Yeah,
that's a checking
hard
line guy. That is, again, those are checking lines. Like, do you know why John Hines in
But if that's their identity, if they want to be a tough, physical team, then couldn't you give them credit for signing guys like that who are tough and physical forwards?
No, because you don't win that way. When's the last tough physical team that bloodied their way to the cup final?
I may not agree with it, but isn't that aligning with their identity?
I mean, they don't have an identity. We just spent time talking about they don't have an identity.
Well, they have an identity that they want to have. They just don't necessarily fit their identity.
So you see what I'm saying? The plan doesn't add up. If you're rebuilding, if you use the word rebuild, then you are rebuilding. If you are rebuilding, you do not trade second-round picks for below-average players. You don't do it.
Well, you don't do that ever.
Well, they did it. So it doesn't make any sense. And that's the part that I think I struggle with, because I look at Willie, honestly, and I love Willie. I do. And I mean this wholeheartedly. I love Willie. I love his wife. They're a great USN family. Willie's a very accomplished broadcaster. I really care a lot about Willie. But I look at him as a member of the team. Like, I think he's on the team. Like, he loves the team. He cares about the team. He flies on the plane with the team. Like, he wouldn't say that he's a member of the team because that would be disrespectful to the players. But I look at him as like a member of the team. Like the equipment guys, like the video guys, like those guys that have just as much invested in their hearts in the team as the players. I look at him that way. I do wonder if that plan that he's talking about is actually what they think they're doing right now.
I think it is.
And that's the problem, is that if that is the case, then A, I don't agree with it, but B, I don't totally understand what they say they're doing and what they are doing, because they don't totally match up.
And that's the thing with the plan and the identity, is that it may exist and they may have something in their minds of what they want both the plan and the identity to be, but the plan doesn't make sense and the identity doesn't match the team. So you can have a plan and an identity all day long, but when it doesn't make sense and it doesn't match up, then do you really have a plan and an identity?
And then again, like, The one thing that I don't like is the idea of, well, they made the playoffs, so everybody should be happy. Because I'm not happy with making the playoffs. Like, half the teams in the league make the playoffs. Everybody who is supposed to finish higher than the Predators, according to Sportsnet, has either fired their coach or is going to fire their coach.
Well, they made the playoffs and they got swept.
And they were not competitive. And that I struggle with. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. What do you think of, oh, by the way, Luke Evangelista was 43 on the list of the Preds prospects, according to the Hockey Writers.
Wonderful.
So
Welcome,
three out of 100. 615-737-1025. We'll get your thoughts in on that. Plus, what does competitive rebuild actually mean? We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here at ESPN 1025 The Game.
At some point, it's a combination of who did you play and what does your skill set look like.
Get the best analysis of the big stories in the sports world with ESPN's Jason Fitz.
If you reach for a quarterback in the draft because you need one, you're going to set your franchise back 5 years.
Join Fitzy every Wednesday at 4:30. Presented by Blood Assurance. Jason Fitz.
I am 5'9.5".
On ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Power buys are back at Northern Tool and Equipment. Save on top tools like $40 off their Clutch 189-piece mechanics tool set or $170 off their Ironton 12,000-pound electric winch.
Gary Ashton here. I love hearing people say, don't sell without the intel, because it means they're really embracing our message. Now's a great time to sell your home in Nashville, but you need the intel only the Gary Ashton team can provide. Intel that helps you sell your home without any staging or showings. Intel to find your next home so you can sell your current one while the market's hot. Intel to win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. Let everyone else get the same information and compete for the same properties, while you get the intel edge with the Gary Ashton team, the official real estate team for your Tennessee Titans. And if you're looking for a great career, join our team. We added 65 new agents last year, and we want you to join us this year. Remember, don't sell without the intel. And if you're looking for a great career, the Gary Ashton team wants you in 2022. Call 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com today.
1 week only. Electronic Express has massive sales on overstock, open box, demos, and scratch and dent products in every department. 4K TVs, appliances, computers, housewares, smart home, and more. We have deals on all of your appliances and electronics needs. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 36 months free financing. Find a store near you at electronicexpress.com. Locally owned and operated. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Don't go through another summer with that awful joint pain. Call QC Kinetics now. Willie Donick here. That pain in your back, your knees, your shoulder, it can now be treated with the latest in precision medicine using natural biologic growth factors that can restore and repair damaged tissue. Really exciting stuff. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, giving you access right here to this modern-day joint pain solution. You can get lasting joint pain relief with no drugs, no steroids, no downtime, and no surgery. You may have heard Emmett Smith raving about QC Kinetics. You've read or seen other high-profile people talking about it. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics can help you get your life back. So take action now. Get a free consultation. Powerful, effective joint pain treatments with natural biologics are here. So call QC Kinetics now. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics.
70% of the Fortune 100 choose Zoom. With phone, chat, workspaces, apps, events, and video in a single platform, Zoom powers all your communications. Large enterprises, small businesses, and individuals use the secure Zoom platform to enable new ways of working, learning, hosting events, and supporting their customers. And now you can save 15% on meetings, chat, and phone with the Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom, how the world connects.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
So you're now trying to reshape it again and load back up, which is hard to do while still making the playoffs. But you know what? They still made the playoffs when they told you we're going into a competitive transition. We've got to get younger. So that's the history. Okay, if you want to go and say, let's strip it down, let's get a new GM, let's blow it up and start over, all right. 3-4 years, I expect to see you in the seats. Okay, I've been to some arenas when they're in that mode. I was in Colorado
my
for a
question
few years.
for 4 hours.
I
yesterday.
went to Denver
Fine.
every year.
You going to show up?
From about 2014, 15, 16. There was a lot of empty seats.
I love it. Oh, God, I love that kind of radio. Ah.
Just the yelling.
Just telling you. Just put the take.
Debating.
Put the take on the table and let's go. That was Willie earlier today. I will say this, which is, honestly, I don't value making the playoffs that much. I'm sure that someone's – I'm not sure the fans do either. I'm not sure the fans do the, hey, anything, like they used to do. They used to believe in anything can happen. I think they're tired of losing that crummy Arizona team in that bubble play-in series. I think they're tired of getting swept.
I only have 2 playoff experiences in Nashville to compare, but this year felt a whole heck of a lot different than last year.
Yeah, and they were down 0-2 both times they had Game 3 at home, but it just was totally different.
The vibe in the arena felt different. The vibe
Monday
in the city felt different.
Monday night felt like a Tuesday game in November, like during the Titans season.
It felt like a
against
regular
Calgary.
season game.
It felt like a game that I didn't have to watch. And what I mean by that is, like, say it's a Thursday game against Ottawa, and you know that the next day the Titans are playing the Colts. You know that on a Friday in November – the buzz is going to be around the Titans playing the Colts. Now, if it's a game with serious implications, it's like rookie minicamp. If the Predators were getting ready for round 2, game 1 against the St. Louis Blues, we wouldn't care about rookie minicamp.
No.
But it's just kind of that vibe. And the game Monday
cycle.
night felt like a game, like a Tuesday, Ottawa, November, that kind of game. And it should never feel that way at Bridgestone Arena. So that's just my take on it. But again, I still wonder what the hell this competitive rebuild thing means. So I decided to go back to when David Poile actually said competitive rebuild. And you will be shocked who got the competitive rebuild out of him.
Was it you?
Yeah,
it
David.
was.
Yeah, David.
Go ahead.
Yeah, David. You said that this is not a rebuild, but at some point, when would you think that a legitimate rebuild would be necessary?
Well, I guess we all have to get our own definitions as to what a rebuild is. I mean, I'm going to do my best to not use that word kind of corrupt in there, but I would like to stay competitive and by making these changes, not be a team that falls out of making the playoffs or goes to the bottom like some other teams have in this league, and they seem to have been there for a while. I'm pretty bullish the way the second half of the season went, and how our team played and how our younger players played and juice and goal. So I think there's a lot of things that are really looking good on our team, and for a lot of years. I mean, we are one of the oldest teams in the league. So when Becca retires at 38, or RV and Elliott close to 30, or exactly how old they are, I mean, our average age is going to be going down. And again, I'm just really feeling that we're not that far off. I mean, Cody Glass is a young player that I didn't mention in the last question. And, I think outside of the injury that he had, he would be playing regular in the NHL, and hopefully he can secure a spot next year. So that's a lot of players that I just mentioned that, over maybe an 18-month period of time that we're kind of introducing on a full-time basis to our club. So I would like to say competitive rebuild. Let's go with that one.
Okay. What the hell does that mean?
Well, he just laid it out. They're not going to not make the playoffs, but they're going to get younger.
So they're going to get younger, but they're not going to go down the path that it really takes in order to get good while getting younger.
And they're not going to put the young guys in to get experience and to be NHL ready, because if you put a young guy in order to get that experience, he may not be able to give you the best opportunity to win. But they need to win in order to make the playoffs and be competitive.
So what they're doing,
it contradicts itself.
So what they're doing is they're replacing old overrated players with young same players, right? Like you get rid of Austin Watson and you replace him with, one of these Matthew Olivier's, right? Like Watson was making a couple mil. Now he's gone. Now Olivier's in. He's making $300,000, and there you go. But instead, what really is happening is you're replacing PK Subban in his prime with Alexander Carrier and Dante Fabro, and they're not good enough. So that's the problem here, is that They're not embracing what it would take. I will be just completely honest with you all. I'm willing to embrace the suck. And I know a lot of you guys are not willing to do that. I am willing to embrace a year or two where they're not very good. Now, there's a difference between totally tearing it down and rebuilding on the fly. And Adam Vinkin brings this up all the time, and I was there for part of this in Boston when they went ahead and they did that. And what they did was they looked at their team that had made the Cup, that had won it in 11 and had made it in 13, and they were up against the cap, and they had aging veterans. And what they did was they kept a core of Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, Zdeno Chara, and David Krejci. And everybody else, pretty much, Johnny Boychuk was gone, Nathan Horton was gone, Milan Lucic was gone. Like, all these guys are out, and in come new guys. David Pasternak, Charlie McAvoy, those guys come in. Now, they fired the coach, and they fired the general manager. So it's not like, they're doing whatever. The way I look at it is I would be fine building my team around Yossi, Duchesne. I guess like Johansson has to be there, even though I don't necessarily need him to be there, but he has to be there. So Yossi, Johansson, Duchesne.
Probably Forsberg.
Well, I'll get to him in a second. Jeannot, Sissons, Saros. And honestly, I don't even really need Jeannot or Sissons. So really, Yossi, Johansson, Duchesne, Saros. And everybody else, gone. And Forsberg, that's kind of complicated because if this would have been last year, I'd have said gone. Because he'd have been your number one trade chip, and you'd have been able to pick up a freaking haul for him. And maybe you draft the next Tyler Seguin when you make that move. But that window has closed. So that's a whole different complicated question. But I think you can do that if you stink. Because then you draft guys, then they come up, then you trade guys, so then you get prospects. And if you trade Saros today, he has value. Whereas if you wait until he's no good or he's injured or he's old, like Ryan Ellis, then you get nothing in return. If you wait until they gain 35 pounds like PK Subban, then you get nothing in return. And so that's the problem, is that what you have to do in order to be good, this team is not willing to do because they will not embrace the suck. And I get it because, nobody – Willie's right. If the team stinks, people will not go to the games. And so I understand why they don't want to do it, but what's going to happen is if they don't do it, they're going to be the same as they were this year or worse because if all you do is sign Forsberg, then you're the same, but then he doesn't have the same motivation to play. And your guys that carried your team this year are all older. They're all in their 30s. They're all now starting to reach the years of decline. And so then you'll lose games too, or you'll be in the exact same spot. And I have to be honest with you, I'm not sure that people will go as much as they have gone if the results look eerily similar to this past season.
But I think the difficult thing to swallow about the embracing the suck is that there's no guarantee that once you suck, that you will be a cup contender in 3, 5, 7, 8 years.
But there's no guarantee in anything.
No, there's not.
There's no guarantee. I think Joe Burrow is the best young quarterback in the NFL. There is no guarantee that Joe Burrow doesn't blow his knee up again, and we'll look back on it and say, man, Joe Burrow could have made it.
What could have been?
Do you know Dan Marino went to the Super Bowl his second year, and everybody thought after that Dan Marino was going to go to 15 Super Bowls, and Dan Marino never went again. And so there's no guarantee here.
No, there's not.
There's no guarantee. And
but
so,
that's a scary thing to commit yourself to, is being bad with no guarantee of being better again. You can think that you would be, get better draft picks, you would get picks in return for the players that you trade, but
you have to get the right person to manage the club.
And that's another part of it too, is that if you're going to dish out all of your players for picks and prospects, you got to trust the person that's doing the picking.
And then if you're bad, then let's say that you just decide, blow it up, right? So you fire Poyle, you fire Hines, you hire a new coach, you hire a new GM, and the new coach and the new GM don't get the young players, and they don't develop the young players, and the team's not very good, and a lot of people say, then what? Guess what?
You fire
that GM, you fire that coach, and then you go get a new GM, and you get a new coach, and eventually you'll get the right guys, and then things will click. It's not that hard. And again, I think you can do it quicker than the teams that start at 0 if you've got Yossi, Duchesne, Johansson, and Saros. And even then, Saros, by the time you
their
get
clocks
good,
are ticking.
by the time you get good, the other goalie should be ready. So maybe you trade Saros and you put Connor Ingram in net, And you'll lose, but it'll be fine because at least you'll have a path to young players. Whereas right now, you don't. Right now, Tanner Jeannot is the most promising young player on this team.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bottom six forward. Like, he profiles like a bottom six forward. He plays the position of a bottom six forward. He is a bottom six forward. He is not these guys you see skating for Toronto. He is not these guys you see skating for Tampa or Washington or Florida. He is not Barkov. He is not Austin Matthews. He is not one of those guys.
That doesn't make him any less promising.
But it's a bottom six forward. You don't. How many teams win because of their bottom six forwards in the NHL?
But, I mean, how many teams win because they just have good players on each line?
Not many. Like, most of the teams that
I would
win
say
in the
that,
league,
I mean,
the top
having
six forwards.
Jeannot doesn't hurt.
No, but it doesn't. He doesn't make a huge difference. Like, his value to the team. Like, let's say he was a free agent this year. I don't know what his contract status is. Whatever you would pay him, he's not worth. But now, because he scored a lot, you're going to have to pay him. Now, I don't know, like, what the situation is or whatever, but you win because of guys like that. Like, and I'm talking about, like, the Matthews and Aho and those guys. You win because of guys like that, and you win because of defensemen like Jacob Slavin. Dude, have you seen this freaking guy for Carolina? Holy crap. He would be the perfect defense partner for Yossi. I mean, oh, God, I just love him. But you can't get guys like that. So you have to either draft incredibly well in the later rounds or with your first-round picks, or you have to stink. And so, to me, I just don't think there's a choice here. And yet they seem to think that there is a choice. So we'll get to your phone. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Adam Vingan, by the way, had a take. And it's not about me. It's about David Poyle, and it's about you. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
they're still in good shape to make the playoffs,
and I-840,
players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
There's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 1025 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
Hi guys, are you struggling with erectile dysfunction and sick of the pills? Well, today, Wednesday, May 11th, we're doing something special. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy, shown by Cambridge to repair blood vessels and get rid of ED at its core. If you're ready to put a stop to your erectile dysfunction, call us now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also include something unique that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're gonna love that. And today only, we're offering 3 additional treatments to our patients free. This means that if you notice results fading, we'll retreat you free of charge. This is unprecedented and worth $650. Call today, Wednesday, and qualify free. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 615-576-5000.
This segment of ESPN 1025 The Game is brought to you by Train Heating and Cooling Systems. Tested, retested, engineered, and re-engineered to keep up with you. We run together. Visit traininfo.com to find your local independent train dealer. Traininfo.com. It's hard to stop a train.
Harness LLC needs 5 foremen to join our team. Go to selectharness.com now if you're a foreman with 3 years experience in excavation. Invest in a company who's going to invest in you. Selectharness.com. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
Do I need Medicare when I turn 65, or can I wait?
With more than 70 years of experience helping Tennesseans, Farm Bureau Health Plans can answer all your questions about Medicare.
Part A, B, C, D, it's all alphabet soup to me.
So if you're looking for an affordable way to cover the gaps left by Medicare or protection from the high cost of prescription drugs, you can plan on us to make it easy. Find out more at fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Titleist, featuring the new Titleist Vokey SM9 wedges, their most superior handcrafted wedge design ever. The new SM9 grooves are cut to maximize the interaction of ball and face for lower flight and higher spin. Get precise distance and trajectory control like a pro with the SM9s. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at Worldwide Golf Shops. ESPN1025thegame.com.
Erectile dysfunction ruins sex, but it's more than that. It harms otherwise good relationships. It destroys marriages. It can cause depression and anxiety, and it can be extremely hard on a man's self-esteem. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're suffering with ED, if it's affecting you, I want you to know that if you're like most men, we can treat it and get you back to the man you used to be. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we're ED experts. Our protocols have success rates as high as 90%. We've successfully treated thousands of men in the Music City, and we have a variety of treatment options and treatment combinations that could have you performing like you haven't in years. You could even last up to an hour and experience great sex again that is satisfying for both you and your partner. In treating your health, expertise matters, so make an appointment today. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
Hey, Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Philip, as you consider your future, how much or how important is the direction of this team moving forward? I mean, how much are you taking that into consideration along with everything else?
Yeah, no, a lot. I mean, obviously, I've been fortunate enough to be on this team for a long time now and made the playoffs every year. But at the same time, every player plays to win the Stanley Cup, and so do I. That's my biggest goal, and I do believe that we have a team that can make that in the future. And like you said, I think that's the direction that a team has to be heading, and I think we are.
You think he believes that?
No, I don't.
I don't either. But I think it was the right thing to say, and he did say that. That was Philip Forsberg yesterday. Good
and I
question.
really don't think they have a
Joe.
choice. Good question, Joe.
Now, I want to get to something Adam Vingan said yesterday on Darren Donick and Chase, because I try not to mask my opinion as your opinion. I do feel like the Jared and the GM program was the fan and the expert. And so maybe I was more comfortable saying like how the fans felt. But how you all feel and how I feel can be two totally different things. I remember one time you all were mad at Arthur Smith, and Floyd was vehemently defending Arthur Smith, and I was like, I'm out of this. I have no opinion on this. And so I try not to, again, use my opinion as your opinion, which is why the other day we started the show with you all, calling in, giving your thoughts, whatever. This is what Adam Vingan said about David Poile and the fans on DDC.
I am not sure I have sensed more vitriol towards David Poile than I am right now. And that includes in the first half of last season when it looked like this team was headed towards the bottom of the league. I just think that when it comes to David Poile, I just think that fans are losing confidence in his ability to put together a championship caliber team rapidly. They're losing confidence rapidly in his ability to do that. And I think it's ownership's responsibility to speak to what the immediate future of that position holds, considering where a lot of their consumers are feeling right now.
You man the text line. Do you think that Adam Vingan's right? Now, again, you've only been here for about a year and a half, but I will say, like, February of last year was the first time that I said, like, it was time to fire David Poile. And I stood by it. I've never backed off that. Even when they turned it around, even when they made the playoffs, I never backed off that. But I feel like that, and then they turned it around and everybody was happy again, and now are kind of similar. And Adam's saying that this is even more so than last year.
I can for sure speak to this year and today and yesterday. The text line has been incredibly frustrated with David Poile for a few reasons, with not being able to draft and develop young players that turn into, the top level forwards.
Sure.
With not really understanding what a competitive rebuild means, being frustrated that David Poile may be satisfied with just making the playoffs and not wanting to go further.
Well, give me an example. So, phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com, 615-737-1025.
Let's find a good one. Just a second.
Have we had any positive ones about Poile?
We have had maybe like 2 or 3 over the past couple of days, but for the most part, it's been pretty negative. But
lame.
Jacob texts in and says, Poile knew at the trade deadline that the backup was bad. He knew the secondary scoring was terrible. He knew our defensemen needed some depth. He chose to get Lozon, who didn't even play that well. He should have showed up. Should have showed that so Saros could confidently take more games off. And who cares if we don't make the playoffs? We make the playoffs and got punked. Whoop-de-freaking do.
Yeah, I think that this line of making the playoffs is really not going to sit well with people. Like, I really think that this line of, the idea of, hey, everybody should be happy because we made the playoffs, I don't think people are sitting very well with that. And I listened to the Midday Show yesterday, and basically their whole premise was, at least you made the playoffs. It stinks to be Ottawa. It stinks to be Arizona. It stinks to be those teams. Do you want to be those teams? Do you want to be those teams? And that was pretty much what they said for 4 hours. And to be honest with you,
sounds kind of like eat your vegetables.
It's very much to me. And again, like, it's their show.
Yeah, it's their opinions, and they're not wrong.
And they can, judge my opinions. I'm giving them free rein to characterize my opinions however they want.
Yeah.
It felt kind of condescending. It kind of felt like, just listening to it yesterday, it just kind of felt like, hey, everybody, you should be happy you made the playoffs, and you should never want to get as good as Colorado because they had to suck in order to be as good as they are. And you don't want to suck, so enjoy that. And I'm like, look, man, I've lived through this. Like, I've lived through the Titans. I've lived through that, where they were god-awful under Ken Wisenhunt. And you say, like, okay, well, if you don't get the players, if you don't get it, if you are bad in a year where you don't get that guy, like, the Titans got Mariota. So it wasn't like they got Joe Burrow and all of a sudden got good because they did that. But they turned that Jared Goff pick into, like, real foundational success. They got a general manager that came in here that spends appropriately in free agency and gets guys that are good outside of the ones that he gets pressured on by the fans. But for the most part, he does the right things, and that's why the Titans are good. They have a good coach. I don't think the Predators do have a good coach. And so those are all elements to this that it's like, well, they made the playoffs, so be happy. Well, I wasn't happy. First of all, they were terrible in the playoffs. And on top of it, like, just making the playoffs, watch these teams that made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, and once they start getting picked off, and let's see what happens to their general managers when they lose in the first round. Because I don't think it's going to be okay in Boston for Don Sweeney and Bruce Cassidy. And I don't know if it's going to be okay if Tampa Bay wins those last two. I don't know if it's going to be okay for Kyle Dubas in Toronto. I don't think it's going to be okay.
And in 5 years, if Ottawa is the Tampa Bay, the Colorado of 2027, then Predators fans could look back and say, maybe we did want to be Ottawa.
Well, Ottawa, here's the thing about Ottawa. When's the last time the Predators were Cup contenders? 2018?
Probably so.
Okay, the last time Ottawa was Cup contenders, they went to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final with Pittsburgh in 2017. So it's not like, oh, ha, 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 Ottawa. It's like Ottawa went to 7 games with the Penguins. The same year you went 6 games with the Penguins and lost. Then you were good next year. They were bad. Because of that, you ended up with Kyle freaking Turris, which was the worst the worst trade that this franchise has ever made. And then, on top of it, you didn't really compete for the Cup the next year. You lost in a bubble series and a play-in series against a horrendous team with an interim head coach. You lost to them. Then you made the playoffs last year. You were competitive. You played hard, whip-de-doo, and then this year you got smoked. It's not like life here is that much better than in Ottawa, in all seriousness. And now Ottawa's going to have new ownership, so we'll see what happens. But I'm telling you, I'm okay with that. I am okay with not being good. They were good in 2012. They lost in the second round to Arizona, and I thought they would compete in 2013. They didn't. They got Seth Jones because of it. It happens. Like, it's okay. It's okay to not make the playoffs. It's okay to rebuild your team. It's okay to take a step back. When the Predators were bad in 2013 and 2014, it wasn't like it was impossible to get good again. They had to switch out a lot of the core players. Ryan Suter left. Joel Ward left. Alexander Radulov for a second time left. The Kostitsyn brothers left. Like, they had a lot of players that were really important to this team. And the next thing you know, it's Shea Weber, Yossi, and Mike Fisher, and a bunch of other guys. And it was fine. And that's how I feel about this. But everybody else, plays this game where it's like, oh, if you're going to lose, you're going to be bad, and you're going to be bad, and it's going to be so awful that there's no way out of it. And I don't believe in the management of this team above the general manager to not go find the right guy. Hold that thought. 615-737-1025 or right to your phones next. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
They're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
and I-840,
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
there's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 1025 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 1063 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 1063 now and add it as a favorite.
Tired of mosquitoes ruining your summer? Stop the bite. Go to tiredofmosquitoes.com and check out your special offer. Take back your summer. Go to tiredofmosquitoes.com.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Hot and humid this afternoon. High temperature of 90 would tie the record high. Heat index will put us up around 94, and a few isolated showers will also be possible.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
In a world where human interaction seems to be reduced to chats and clicks and emails, where transactions are measured only by speed, where corporate policies overrule common sense, sometimes you just want to go old school. Welcome to Genesis Diamonds, a refreshing experience where personal relationships and authentic interaction are the norm, not the exception. At Genesis, you're here celebrating something awesome in your life, and we want to know all about it. We want to hear your story, listen to your requests, and be a meaningful part of whatever occasion this is. A proposal, an anniversary, a birthday, graduation, push gift, sweet 16. If it's important to you, it's important to us. So we don't care how long it takes. We're not paid on commission, and we're not beholden to some corporate rule book. We just want to help you get what you want to make it into a special memory. So take a break from modern shopping and go old school with us at Genesis. Let's start a real relationship that you can count on for life. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
The Gallatin Hotel is a vibrant and charming boutique hotel tucked into East Nashville and was voted the #1 boutique hotel in East Nashville by TripAdvisor. Not only is the Gallatin unique by design, but they also give away the majority of their profits to those who need it most and provides beds, food, and supplies to Nashville's underserved communities and those experiencing homelessness. Just one more reason to love your stay at the Gallatin. Visit thegallatinhotel.com to book your stay now. The Gallatin Hotel. It's good vibes only.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Sometimes we push those health worries to the back of our minds, way back. But if chest pain, heart racing, or shortness of breath have been bothering you, bring them up front. Call a doctor. It could be a condition like atrial fibrillation. AFib can have other symptoms too and increases stroke risk about 5 times. This is no time to wait.
A message from Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer. Learn more at notimetowait.com.
You're listening to Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Well, I think it was good for us to see, where a team like that's at and play them firsthand and see what makes them successful. They're a team that's been kind of building that for, a long time, but it's really come to fruition probably the last 5-6 years for them. And we're kind of maybe at the beginning of kind of that transition that they started to make around that time. So I think just their style of game, their confidence, the way they make plays, but still play, really good two-way hockey. I think there's a lot, you can learn from where they're at right now and where teams like them are at. And I think, I know it should make all of us really hungry going in the summer for sure.
That was Matt Duchene. I about spit out my coffee when I heard that. For so many reasons. The irony of that. First of all, number one, we're kind of like them, we're, at a point where we're building up like Colorado was. No. First off, Colorado, do you know what move really, I don't want to say it was the move that kick-started Colorado's rebuild, but when Colorado, it was a move that you can tell affected them for the positive.
What?
It was kind of a transformational move for the Colorado Avalanche. From when they were terrible to all of a sudden they snuck their way into the playoffs with a young team that was going to be really good. They traded Matt Duchene. And in that same three-way trade, you got Kyle freaking Turris. And you gave away Sam Girard and a second-round pick, and they ended up getting the 4th overall pick in the next year's draft, and they were terrible, so they had Makar, and then they signed him. But in seriousness, like McKinnon and those guys, they were all coming, and Duchene wanted out because he was tired of the losing, so they got rid of Duchene, and as soon as they got rid of Duchene, they got good again. And it should be noted that when all the Duchene talk was going on, I remember asking Adam Vingan, do you make anything of it that Matt Duchene was on a terrible Colorado team, got traded from the terrible Colorado team to the Ottawa team that had just been to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final, and then Ottawa automatically became terrible. Like, to me, it was just like, to hear that out of Matt Duchene when you know good well that you don't have a freaking Nathan McKinnon on your team, and to say, oh, man, we're like how they were a couple years ago. No, you're the opposite. You're the opposite. You have old guys that are carrying the load. You do not have young guys that are up and coming, ready to pop. You don't have it. And what was the key move for them? Getting rid of Matt Duchene. And that changed everything about the Colorado Avalanche.
But did that have anything to do with Matt Duchene, or did it have everything to do with what they got in return?
You saw how they treated him when he stepped on that ice in Denver.
They didn't love him.
I mean, they don't do that around here to PK Subban or Ryan Ellis or any of those guys. They did that because they had been trying to trade Duchene for a while, and the Predators have been trying to trade for Duchene, but it was going to require either Ekholm or Ellis, and they weren't willing to do it. But, I mean, Duchene had 40 goals this year, but Duchene's fine. Let's go to your phone line, 615-737-1025, because I promised phones. What do we have?
One texter texts in and says, so pretty much the Predator. Oh, hold on. Not going to read that one. One texter texts in and says, it's easier to stomach being bad if the team is 100% committed to the process of rebuilding and developing. If they are bad just because, then no, get out of here.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you before the end of the season? I said on Monday, regardless of what happens with Hines and Poyle, if they come back, and we are all resigned to the fact that they're going to come back, they have not made an announcement that they're coming back. They have not set a time for a press conference. So there's a little teeny tiny hope in my brain that those that be are just as fed up with this as you and I are, and that they make the move and we can celebrate like freaking crazy, which we would at the idea of going in a new direction. But I said they owe us the truth. That was the thing I said. So
transparency is really all I want.
So if they get up there and they say, okay, like our plan is just to make the playoffs and anything else after that's gravy, okay. I feel like that's what you're owed as a fan. The truth. Now, if that mentality makes you not want to be a fan anymore, that's on you. But I think we're owed the truth. I think we're also owed the truth of why a coach that you said was going to turn this thing around and has not turned this thing around should now get bonus points because some publication picked you to finish 7th. Because I don't buy that one either. What else we got?
JD texts in and says, the competitive rebuild is a business decision in my mind. It's basically a way to string us along, continue to squeak into the playoffs without the hard decisions of cutting the dead wood and truly rebuilding.
So I will say this, unless this team like racks up 110 points next year or 100, 105, 110, somewhere in that range, unless this team like has a great regular season, I don't foresee fans optimistic come playoff time next year. And again, a lot can happen because Colorado could lose the next series.
They haven't won a playoff series since 2018, so why should they be optimistic? Unless there are serious changes and the team looks significantly better throughout the regular season and they have an easier matchup than Colorado. But still, I mean, this team hasn't won a playoff series since 2018. So at what point are you going to change that trend without actually changing anything fundamental about the team?
Unless all they care about is making the playoffs.
Then people are going to get really tired of that really soon, if not now.
This is what I think is going to happen, okay? I think what's going to happen is I think there's going to be pressure. And I don't know if I'm like allowed to say what I think is going to happen because then if it comes true, then people will think that I know something when I don't know something. I'll hold on it for a second. What else we got?
Tom texts in and says, but how long has Toronto, which is the center of the hockey universe, been embracing this suck?
Never. Like, Toronto, like, they've been bad, and that's how they got Austin
They haven't
Matthews.
been able to do much in the playoffs.
Right, but look at their division. And two, and I think this is the more important point, like, they have fired coaches for losing in the playoffs because they are tired of losing in the playoffs.
Yes.
They are tired of being up 3-1 in a playoff series and miraculously choking. And every single person in Toronto right now is scared to death about the idea of going back to Tampa for Game 6 and having a Game 7 in their building with Steven Stamkos and Andrei Vasilevsky and Victor Hedman and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, they won that game yesterday and they're happy, but they are scared to death of throwing up on themselves, and they're playing a team that very much will take advantage of the fact if they do it. Like, Toronto is worried, but they had to get Austin Matthews one way or another, and that's what they did. I was there when Toronto had one of the single most, I've seen choke jobs in my life, and this is at the top. When they were up, I think it was 4-1 in the third period against Boston in Game 7 in 2013. And I watched them blow it, and I watched the Bruins win the game, and I felt the TD Garden shake, and I've never felt that way before in my life, and the way that I saw it all go down. And that right there was a major choke job, and Maple Leaf fans are scared to death of it. And guess what happens in Toronto if you do that? You get fired.
You get fired.
That's what happens. So, like, the idea, how long have they been embracing the suck? How long have they, like, here, all these situations are different, but at some point you got to bring it back. Like, the Titans offense is prepared for next season to bring it back a little bit. So I do want to share with you what I think will happen. This is what I think will end up happening with the Predators. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. By the way, you can hear us right now on 106.3 FM. That's right, baby. So if you're in your car, you can check us out on 106.3 FM from downtown Nashville to Spring Hill, and on I-65 from downtown to Murfreesboro on I-24. You have two choices on the dial to hear our show. Check out 106.3 FM now and save it as a preset.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Gary Ashton here. I love hearing people say, don't sell without the intel, because it means they're really embracing our message. Now's a great time to sell your home in Nashville, but you need the intel only the Gary Ashton team can provide. Intel that helps you sell your home without any staging or showings. Intel to find your next home so you can sell your current one while the market's hot. Intel to win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. Let everyone else get the same information and compete for the same properties, while you get the intel edge with the Gary Ashton team, the official real estate team for your Tennessee Titans. And if you're looking for a great career, join our team. We added 65 new agents last year, and we want you to join us this year. Remember, don't sell without the intel. And if you're looking for a great career, the Gary Ashton team wants you in 2022. Call 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com today.
Realizing Geico has over 85 years of experience saving folks money and providing great customer service is like realizing there's a crumb tray on the bottom of your toaster, and you don't have to keep turning the toaster upside down to clean it.
How long has that been there? Hey, who needs some croutons?
It's something that's been right there in front of you all along, like the dedicated Geico claims team available to you in the event of an accident to get you back on the road quickly, or realizing that baby carrots are just regular carrots that have been shaved down.
I don't care. They're still cute.
It's something you can't believe you never realized before. Like how Geico's 97% customer satisfaction rating means Geico is committed to providing the best service for their customers. Or how you can peel the top layer of tape off a lint roller and there's a fresh layer underneath.
Marcy, wait till you hear about the lint roller.
You mean how the handle is reusable?
Wait, what?
Trust. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
If you've been thinking about remodeling your home's kitchen or bath, contact the countertop experts at Smoky Mountain Tops. Willie Donick here, and we installed Smoky Mountain Top surfacing in our kitchen years ago. It's remained durable and super easy to clean up. Smoky Mountain Tops is proud to offer the new prestigious Vidara quartz for your kitchen or bath countertops. Vidara surfaces are ideal for use in almost any interior application. Check out the stunning new Vidara quartz shown at Smoky Mountain Tops Studio. Contact the pros at Smoky Mountain Tops. Quality, service, and dedication. Visit SmokyMountainTops.com.
Spirited Hive. Come see what all the buzz is about at Spirited Hive on Instagram.
Winter's a bad time for your furnace to go out, but it's never a bad time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Let's plan on having concessions over there.
Mike is remodeling the old family drive-in movie theater.
Go find Gavin. Tell him the sound team is here.
He'll need a new front-of-house cast and behind-the-scenes crew.
Hey, can we talk staffing real quick? I'm thinking at least 6 per shift.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, with Stillman and Company.
Surprise, surprise!
I write down what was good, what was bad.
Afternoons from 2 to 6.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. We do not know. I keep checking my email. When will we have the postseason wrap-up press conference with Predators general manager David Poile and head coach John Hines? That's something that has happened over the years. The team gets eliminated, and then they have a postseason end-of-the-season press conference. They got eliminated on a Tuesday night at Dallas in 2019, and this would be the last regular time that pre-COVID that they had one of these. And they had a press conference on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So they got eliminated Tuesday, Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So I have no sourcing. I have no idea, are they on the hot seat? Are they not on the hot seat? Are they going to pick up Hines' option? Does Poile have a lifetime contract? I don't know these things. Here's what I think is going to happen. And again, I have no sourcing. This is all a prediction. So, if you guys want to use it against me or whatever, this is what I think the people that do know what's going to happen are smart enough to know not to tell me. I think they're going to keep David Poile, but I think there's going to be pressure. And so I think you're going to see a press conference on a Friday. Maybe this Friday, maybe the next Friday. I don't know. I do know this. I know that anger is high right now. And so my theory behind it would be that if they were to come out today and say David Poile is coming back and John Hines is coming back, and they were to have a press conference like today at 11 a.m., then it would be open season on those guys, for us and for the rest of the city, talk radio, taking their, Poile said this is And then I think there would be people, and again, this is out of anger. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm not saying as a season ticket holder I'm doing it. But I think there would be people that would pick up the phone and be like, you're bringing them back. I'll cancel my tickets. You know what I mean? So I think they're trying to avoid that.
But I think a lot of people say that now.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's why you wait. Because right now the anger is high.
Frustration is high.
So you wait, and then you have a press conference at 4 o'clock on a Friday. And after 4 o'clock on a Friday, it'll get talked about on this show for 1 hour. Something will happen over a weekend, like Juwan Howard will slap a guy in the face, and all of a sudden, everything that we had thought about just
Hopefully
goes
not
out
again.
the window.
But it also doesn't change the fact that that's the decision that they are making, and that's what's going to be the reality moving forward.
Right.
That doesn't change anything. You can mask it all you want.
Sure. I think that I think I think that Poile's coming back. I think Hines is coming back too, on the option. So I think that we're going to hear a lot of chest puffing about making the playoffs. And I think we're going to hear a lot of, we weren't predicted very high. I think we're going to hear about the age of guys like Trennan and Jeannot, and we're going to hear about Cody Glass's season in Milwaukee, and all the things that you don't want to hear about right now, they're going to tell you. And then I think they're going to go into free agency. I think they're going to re-sign Philip Forsberg. And I think it's going to be a $9 million a year for 8 years, and I think they're going to give him a full no movement clause because he's got all the leverage. And I think what matters, and again, this is all what I think. I have no sourcing on this. I think what matters to him is the no movement protection more than the money. And the reason the no movement protection, I think, matters to him is because he saw everybody get traded. And so if it's like, okay, what's your leverage? The only leverage the Predators have is the 8th year. So if it's like, hey, we can give you 8 years, everybody else can only give you 7, I think he probably looks at it as, what good is the 8th year if you may trade me in the 3rd year?
Yeah.
So what, or I could sign for 7 somewhere else, know where I'm going to be for 7 years, and then get an 8th year by just playing well. And that amount of money probably is not going to make as big of a difference of where he's going to live for the next 7 years of his life. So I think they're going to re-sign Philip Forsberg, and I think they're going to give him a full no-movement clause. And I think that he will never perform up to the contract that they're going to give them, but I don't think they have a choice. I also think this cap space that they've acquired, they're going to use. And they're going to go out there, and what does everybody do when they use money in free agency? They overpay. Mm-hmm. So they're going to go out, and they're going to sign a couple of guys that aren't going to really make a difference, but they're going to pay them, to come in here, just like they overpaid Granlund. They're going to overpay people to come in here, and because I think there's pressure to win. And I mean pressure, I think that the organization probably hears what you all feel. Like that whole Adam Vingan thing about he's never felt more vitriol towards David Poile. The idea of if the plan is make the playoffs but don't have any expectation for the playoffs, I'm out. I think they've heard that. So you got two choices. Either you stink and you go get good players by drafting them, or you go buy them, or you trade for them. And since the Predators don't have anything to trade, then the reality is that you buy them. So you have to buy them, but you never buy the best players because the best players never get to free agency except for like John Tavares. So, and that guy won't be available. So they'll overpay for, mid-level guys, and they'll bring them in here, and then I don't think they'll be very good. And I think Hines will be out before January 1st, and then they will transition off of Poile throughout the course of next year. And that is what I think is going to happen.
I guess my question is, what will David Poile or John Hines do in this next season that would elicit a firing more so than what they have already done?
I don't think it will elicit the firing more than they've already done. I think it will be the money that will be spent on these players and the expectations. And, first of all,
would justify?
In the NHL, it takes time to gel. It takes time for rosters to come together. It takes time for teams to gel. This is going to be exactly like what happened when John Hines was in New Jersey, which was they had a miraculous run to make the playoffs. Everybody was happy. Taylor Hall was MVP. They missed the playoffs or something like that. So then the next year they go out, they trade for PK Subban, they sign Wayne Simmons. They're no good to start the season, and he gets the axe. And I think that's what's going to happen here. And there is no way, if this team is not competitive on January 1st of next year, and I mean like legitimately competitive, like with St. Louis, with Minnesota, with Colorado, if they are not up there at that point, then I think that there's no chance Hines stays and that he gets fired in the middle of the year.
Wouldn't it be better to cut ties now instead
of course
in the middle
it would
of the
be.
year?
I mean, think about it like
why
this.
not now?
And this is where David Poile's age does matter. He's 72 years old, and he hadn't won a playoff series in 4 years. You think he's going to be the general manager in 5 years from now?
Probably not.
So the decision on Philip Forsberg and these other guys that they're going to go spend money on in free agency, which, again, I think they're going to spend money in free agency, those moves are then going to handcuff the next guy. Like the next guy is going to come in here, and he's going to be stuck with 7 more years of Philip Forsberg with a no-movement clause. So he'll have Forsberg in his late 30s, and he won't be able to move him, and he'll be paying him $9 million on a deal that he didn't sign. And if they bring in other guys, like I heard the morning show today talking about Nazem Kadri, and honestly, I can't even get excited about thinking about David Poyle hitting free agency. But those guys they sign, the new guy will come in and we'll have to deal with those guys. And I don't think that makes any sense. I think that the new guy
with a fresher slate. Not necessarily
you're
a clean slate,
you still got Yossi, and you've got
Yeah.
Ekholm's new deal, and you've got to deal with Johansson's for I think 3 more years and Duchesne for 4 more years. But
being able to build with the plan of the new general manager.
yeah, well, right now what the team does have is, other than the second-round pick for Lozon, I don't think they have any outstanding picks. So a new general manager would come in here and he would have his first-round picks, and he would have his future first-round picks, and he'd have the cap space, and then he'd be able to make the decision on Forsberg. He'd be able to go out into the market. I think this team needs a new set of eyeballs on the roster anyways, to kind of sit there and judge these players. David's judgment is, well documented as to how he feels about these guys. I would agree. If the inevitable for me is that Hines is going to get fired, then they might as well just do it now. I agree. But I'm just telling you, this isn't what I would do. It's what I think is going to happen. Is I think they are going to I think there will be pressure on the general manager to win next year, which means that they will spend money in free agency. And usually when you go out to spend money because you have to spend money, that's how you end up paying $17 million to Christian Kirk. And that's what I think is going to happen. So I don't like it. I don't like it, but that's what I think is going to happen. And I got to tell you, sometimes it's just better to rip the Band-Aid off, in my opinion. And just let the new guy come in and let the new guy analyze Forsberg. I haven't done the numbers, so maybe I shouldn't assume what they say. I bet you a lot of these metrics is not going to favor Philip Forsberg at $9 million a year with a no movement clause. But that's what they're going to have to do. A new guy could come in.
They also put themselves in this position.
Oh, sure. A new guy could come in and could say, no, we're not paying you that kind of money. Now, if you want to be here, we'll give you, this amount of money, and you can get more in the open market, but we're not doing it. Because if that guy leaves, there won't be a revolt. If Poyle loses Forsberg for nothing, then you might have
the last
fans,
straw.
like the idea of fans picking up the phone and saying, I'm canceling my tickets. I'm not saying it would happen en masse, but I do think there would be people that would legitimately be that upset. And I've said this yesterday. You guys care a lot more about Forsberg's future than I do. I think he's a second-level player, and I think second-level players are good, but I don't think they're Austin Matthews or even Patrice Bergeron or Sebastian Aho, these guys that you win with. But you can't get first-level players on the open market. So what you do is you don't sign Connor McDavid on the open market. So what you do is you then go out there. It's just like quarterbacks. What quarterbacks can you get on the open market? You can get Tyrod Taylor. That's what you get. And so that's what I think is going to happen. 615-737-1025. We'll go to your phones, your reaction on this next. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. Let me tell all the fine folks out there about something I'm very excited to tell you all about. That ESPN 1025 The Game is Nashville's official home for NASCAR. Tune in this Sunday at 1 o'clock for the Advent Health 400 at Kansas Speedway. Also, get set for the race with Chasing Checkers every Sunday at 8 a.m. on 1025 The Game. NASCAR on 1025 The Game is presented by Nashville Super Speedway and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
Every Wednesday at 5, join us for Jared versus Joe as they debate all of the big topics in sports, presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Mayweather Boxing and Fitness on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
When you need to hire, you need Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Empire Auto Parts has opened a brand new location in Nashville, Tennessee. They're hosting a hiring event with giveaways, sign-on bonuses, and more, happening at Holiday Inn Express at the Crossings, 201 Crossings Place, May 16th through 20th, from 9 a.m. to noon or 2 to 5. Empire Auto Parts offers hourly pay, full benefits, 401k matching, and more. Current job openings for warehouse associate, delivery drivers, customer service agents, account managers, and dispatchers. Apply now on Indeed at Empire Auto Parts Inc. Jobs or visit their website at EmpireAutoParts.com.
Trying to find a new home right now is next to impossible. Very little inventory, prices are crazy high, rates are moving up. Here's a better idea. Let my friends at Loan Pronto refinance your current home, turn all that equity you have into cash, and totally transform your house. A new kitchen, new bathroom, a pool. Think about it. Your home value is up. Instead of wasting all that on an overpriced new house, convert that equity into cash for a home makeover. One local couple did it and got $200,000 out. They added new hardwoods, an outdoor living space, a swimming pool with spa and all new cabinets and appliances, plus a home office. Now they have their dream home, and they never had to move. Call Loan Pronto. Ask about their home improvement refi. Give your home a total makeover and do it now. You can even skip your next house payment in the process. Call now, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval.
Get a great deal on versatile Kubota equipment today, like Kubota BX and L Series compact tractors, part of our under 100 horsepower tractor lineup rated #1 for reliability, Z Series mowers, and Sidekick utility vehicles. Stop by your local Kubota dealer today. Bring home the Kubota L2501 tractor for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 60 months, plus save up to $1,100 now through June 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details.
2 locations to serve you, Columbia Kubota or Franklin Kubota. Visit them online at ColumbiaKubota.com or FranklinKubota.com.
I come from a military family.
That's Stasha at Genesis Diamonds talking about the Hero Rewards program at Genesis, providing special discounts every day for heroes in uniform.
Whatever their budget is, we're going to make sure it stretches the best for them and that they will get the most beautiful ring at the best value.
Special hero pricing on any item extends to all military plus police, fire, and first responders.
They make us have the great life we have, and we are eternally grateful for that.
Genesis Hero Rewards program and free services is yours for life, no matter where you move.
Travel anywhere in the world, we're one phone call away. So no matter where you're stationed, if you're military or if you're a police officer and you go to another state, we're going to take good care of you.
Of course, it doesn't hurt that Genesis owner Boaz Ramon is himself a veteran of the Israeli army.
Boaz, having served in the military, appreciates the military and what they do for us.
Genesis Diamonds, where our heroes in uniform get red carpet pricing and white glove treatment every day of the year.
Because they're there for us.
Genesis Diamonds and pre-owned Rolexes. Continuously voted best jewelry store and best place to buy an engagement ring. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hey Nashville, what's the best part of hockey? That's rhetorical. We all know the answer. It's the 3-on-3 overtime, the speed, the skill, the tic-tac-toe passing. It is electric. Well, now there is a new, totally 3-on-3 ice hockey league called 3 Ice, coming to the Music City on August 6th. They're playing at Bridgestone Arena, and tickets are available now at 3ice.com. 6 teams touring across 9 cities, playing a bracket-style tournament at each stop. It's overtime all the time. Hair on fire hockey. Log on to 3ice.com for tickets now.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
There's going to be a day in the coming days or maybe early next week where David Poyle is going to speak to the media, and he's going to recap the season, and he's going to answer questions. And I already know, just based on what I've heard from John Hines and many of the players, that the one thing that David Poyle is going to say, among others, is that this team exceeded preseason expectations so that they're on the right track. I don't know, something along those lines. I wrote this in the story, and I do mean this. And again, I have a tremendous amount of respect for David Poyle. I don't think I can properly express the respect that I have for David Poyle. He is an unreliable narrator to me. I have a hard time hearing what he says and believing what he says when it comes to discussing the direction of the franchise, because I think the results speak for themselves.
There you go. That was a take from Adam Vinkin this morning on Robby and Rexrode. There is one assumption there. Now, I told you, I think that they're coming back. Adam is making the assumption that Poyle and Hines are back. Do you make that assumption?
I do. I don't agree with it, but I don't see them moving on without them.
There's one thing I would caution everybody on. Nobody expected Barry Trotz to be out there. And I'm not saying that they're going after Barry Trotz, but what could happen in these Eastern Conference playoffs? Like, for instance, Tampa, right? Like, Tampa's back-to-back cups. What if they win, or what if Toronto wins, and they fire, or there's like a mutual parting, like, it doesn't want to be there anymore. And so now, I'm not saying John Cooper will be available, but somebody of that caliber. Some of these good coaches are getting, like Bruce Cassidy in Boston is a good coach. And if he loses at home tomorrow, he's out.
Well, Barry Trotz is a good coach.
Barry Trotz is a good coach. So, but I'll give you another example. Jared Bednar. I think Jared Bednar is a great coach. I think he is a great coach. He kind of reminds me of Jay Wright. I feel like he's like the Jay Wright of hockey. And if Colorado gets knocked out by St. Louis or Minnesota, which would scare the crap out of me if I was an Avalanche fan, because, we kind of could take a smoke break and go 4-0 on the Predators and then have another week off, and then these two teams are playing at the level of intensity they're playing at. And you never like that. If they lose in the second round, Bednar could be the fall guy for that, for this happening a second time in the second year in a row that they absolutely vomit on themselves in the second round of the playoffs. If Jared Bednar's out there, I think you have to think about hiring him. So I would throw that out there. But the Adam Vingan clip we just played made the assumption that they'll be back, and I think that is the assumption that a lot of people who cover this team make, and maybe it's the right assumption, but 3% of me is hoping it's not.
But I do also wonder if the Predators aren't considering firing John Hines at this moment. Should their minds necessarily be changed depending on the coaching market? I don't know if that's fair.
Well, I think that that's the smart thing to do.
You think?
Yeah.
To rock with him until someone else better is available?
Hey, Titans did it.
Did they? I don't know.
Mike Mularkey went to the playoffs and went out, got Mike Vrabel. And so the last time I checked, he's coach of the year. So I would be interested in that. Because here's the way I look at it, right? If you think, okay, again, if you put pressure on a general manager, this is why I don't necessarily believe in as an owner. If I owned a team, which is a hypothetical that I use all the time. If I owned the team, I'm not sure I would go to David and say, David, we need to win this year or else. Because then he's going to start making moves that are desperate.
Out of anxiety.
And I don't like those. So I'd probably just can him and let the new guy make the big decisions. And I would have had him sell at the deadline last year. So you would have gotten picks for Granlund or prospects or whatever. Probably would have traded Ekholm, and then the new guy would have come in this past year to be able to handle all this. And you'd already be 1 year in the rear view on your rebuild. But I do think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to put pressure on David and put pressure on Hines, and they're going to sign guys in free agency, and it better work or else they're going to fire them. And I don't love that, but I do think that's the reality. But again, I'm holding out hope that they can, both of them.
But I also think that's a short enough leash that you can can him now.
Well, yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like, if you know that you're going to fire him, then you might as well just fire him.
Go ahead and fire him.
What else we got in the text line? 615-737-100. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
One texter texts in and says, Robby said, and I agree with him, that Brian Poyle will eventually succeed David Poyle, which is indefensible to me. But what would your reaction to that be?
I wonder if I would be given a free week of vacation if they made Brian Poyle the general manager of the Nashville Predators. That is what I will say.
Because you would need some time to collect your thoughts.
He hasn't, what has he done?
And also, to your point, this isn't a company. This isn't a family business.
Isn't word on the street kind of that Brian is operating a lot?
That is the grumblings on the street.
The word on the street.
Yes.
And the team is doing what? They ain't playing very well.
Not great things.
So
I also think that's a very strange position to part ways with one general manager who wasn't managing the team up to par. And so your solution is to hire his son.
No, I think if you're going to pull that off, like if you care about your son taking your job, or you want your son to be the one to take your job, you got to step out like after you win the President's Trophy.
You got to get out.
You got to do like what? So
when
like
you're at peak popularity.
A lot of coaches will do this in sports in order to get their assistant coach the job. Is they will wait until, like in football, like they'll get to training camp and then they'll be like what Bruce Arians did.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I've decided to step away, give my guy the job.
And everyone's happy with his guy getting the job.
And everybody's like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then that guy gets at least the job for 1 year. That is usually what a lot of coaches do. Bo Ryan, the Hall of Fame Wisconsin basketball coach, stepped aside in like September so that Greg Gard could get that job because they weren't going to hire Greg Gard. So he stepped away so that they had to hire Greg Gard. What else we got?
I've heard this same kind of feeling in the text line a few times today. But Robert texts in and says, so the Titans missed their window along with the Predators. Just because the Titans got bounced in the first couple of rounds of the playoffs, they're good.
Say that again.
So texters essentially saying Titans got bounced in the first round of the playoffs the past 2 years, and so have the Predators, but we're okay with the Titans and not the Predators.
Technically, the Titans got bounced in the second round of the playoffs last year.
It was just their first round.
And more importantly, last week we heard that the quarterback told us that he was so traumatized from his performance that cost him that game that he's in therapy talking about it. Think about that. Like, you're telling me.
Also, that was a player thing. That was not a coach thing. That was not an organization
but again,
thing.
There are ramifications for that.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill's telling you how much it affects him, that game that he absolutely squabbled. The Titans told you, look, we're going to go get your replacement, so you better start playing better or else your replacement will be playing quarterback. You know, if it were announced today that the Nashville Predators, and I do think we're going to see some assistant coaches fired because that is always the first sign. The coordinators always go first. So if the Predators were to announce, you know, I try to think of a guy off the top of my head who's like a former head coach, but bringing him back on the bench. I don't even know where Phil Housley is right now. If they were to bring back Phil Housley to run the defense right now, that's a sign that Hines is getting booted and Housley's taking over as the interim head coach. Mm-hmm. If they were to put like an experienced head coach on the bench, like say Rick Tocchet were to go on the bench, now I think he'll get a head job, but if Tocchet were on the bench, then it's like the first time you slip up, you're out, Tockett's in. Mm-hmm. If they elevate Carl Taylor from Milwaukee and they make him an assistant coach, because he will get interviews this coaching cycle, if they elevate Carl Taylor up there, and then all of a sudden it's like, team starts off, he got sign.
Michael in Mount Juliet texts in and says, does Forsberg's decision impact Poyle's job status?
It should not. And I'll leave it at that. It probably will, but it should not. Because what have you done with him? I mean, he's a good player.
But I think the outcome of Forsberg's contract is a whole different side of things with Poyle, other than just the way that Forsberg's contract has already been handled.
It is very emotional. So the reaction to the Forsberg deal, I think, will be more like it matters more about emotion than it does about like hockey. And I don't like
and money.
I don't
and
like
logistics.
That. I do not like that. I do not like emotional decisions or decisions that are made because of how people will react. I like, I treat all the players as assets. And so I look at it as like, what's a depreciating asset and what can you use that asset in order to help get more assets and things like that. And I think because the emotions of the fans are so high on Forsberg that it will force them to make a decision that they do not want to make as far as what they're not willing to do, but they will be willing to do because they're so afraid of the emotional reaction of losing Forsberg.
Which is almost the exact opposite of what the Titans did with A.J. Brown.
Phil Housley is currently an assistant in Arizona. Man, that's a bad job. 615-737-1025. More of your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Plus, if we're living in the same headspace, got bad news for the Titans. We'll explain that next. Stillman and Company right here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Jason Fitz normally joins us at this time. We'll catch up with Fitzy next week. Jason Fitz brought to you by Blood Assurance. Give blood, give local, save lives. That's right. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Hey, Preds fans.
Sliding across to make the save is Cerro.
You can now hear Nashville's best sports talk.
The backhander, he scores!
And every Predators game on 106.3 FM.
Well, that was a thing of beauty.
From downtown Nashville to Rutherford and Williamson counties.
Duchesne with the overtime winner.
Catch all the action on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Nashville's Anheuser-Busch distributor, Ajax Turner Company, is hiring Class A drivers and driver trainees who will obtain their Class A license through the company's very own driver training and testing program for free. Be home every day and off on weekends while earning competitive wages and receiving benefits like medical and life insurance, paid time off, 401k, and supplemental insurance programs. Apply at ajaxturner.com/career or call 615-280-3904. Anheuser-Busch reminds you to drink responsibly.
1 week only. Electronic Express has massive sales on overstock, open box, demos, and scratch and dent products in every department. 4K TVs, appliances, computers, housewares, smart home, and more. We have deals on all of your appliances and electronics needs. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 36 months free financing. Find a store near you at electronicexpress.com. Locally owned and operated. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
The Ainsworth Nashville has been bringing a sophisticated twist to the classic All-American Sports Bar, restaurant, and private event experience in Midtown since 2018. Our multi-purpose venue consists of a full-scale restaurant, bar and lounge, and event space. Come for the wings, stay for our happy hour, and visit us for brunch on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We've got the good times to keep you singing all night long. The Ainsworth Nashville. Burgers, cocktails, sports.
Visit the Ainsworth at 206 21st Avenue South in Nashville or online at theainsworth.com.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the new Ping I-525 irons and Glide 4.0 wedges. The Ping I-525 irons have a forged steel face, allowing for dynamic distance and a greater feel. The next generation Glide 4.0 specialty wedges are engineered for high spin performance with a lower launch. Get a free custom fitting today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Thursday night.
Welcome to the NFL.
Ready to make your NFL travel plans? Tune in for the NFL schedule release special as experts go around the league for analysis on each team.
And those are two fascinating teams.
With the superior defense, he's got weapons.
Including the Tennessee Titans.
There is a lot riding on this season for Ryan Tannehill and the Titans.
Coverage begins at 7 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Usually Jason Fitz joins us at this time, presented by Blood Assurance. Give blood, give local, save lives. We'll chat with Fitz next week. So The Athletic has their power rankings that are out for the NFL, and I clicked it. You want to know why I clicked it?
To see where the Titans were.
And you want to know why I wanted to see where the Titans were?
Because all of a sudden we care a lot about preseason expectations.
Oh, God. I mean, it's the number one thing of, we were not picked to finish high. In the last couple days, we've heard the coach, the captain, Forsberg. We've heard them all. I mean, Chris Mason texted me about the preseason expectations. And by the way, he's coming on the show supposedly tomorrow to debate, which should be an interesting debate.
Which I would tune in for.
But the Titans are ranked 15th in the Athletics preseason poll. And I think this is so silly. Now, I'll say this. I'm fine with them putting the Titans as 15th or whatever. And maybe I argue like, okay, yeah, they should be better than the Raiders, so put them ahead of the Raiders or what. I think it is so silly for a pro team to sit there and look at the power rankings or whatever you want to call it and try to justify getting dominated in the first round of the playoffs because some people didn't expect you to do well. I think it is so laughable. And I find this to just be so unbecoming. And I ask this question, which is, if losing, but then saying that it's okay because of what everybody else's preseason expectations were for you, if that's okay, then should we justify our excitement for your football team or hockey team based upon what everybody else says of the preseason expectations, because I'll tell you right now, 15th ain't good enough for me with the Titans. There are 14 teams that make the playoffs in the NFL. So if they're 15th, that means you out. And if the Titans don't make the playoffs this year, I'm going to be furious. So I don't need to hear the day after the Titans lose, week 18, and they lose to the Colts, and the Colts win the division, and the Titans are out of the playoffs, and they finish 15th in the AFC, and they don't make it to the playoffs. And I don't want to hear Mike Vrabel get up to the podium and say, well, they picked us to be 15th, so I think we did pretty well. Because I'm not going to be okay with that. So I think it's total loser talk, and I'm tired of it. And it's almost like a preemptive strike of what I feel like we're going to hear out of whenever the general manager and the coach talk is look at the preseason expectations. I went over them yesterday. 20th. They were 20th preseason ranking. Tampa Bay still playing. Colorado still playing. Vegas, the coach is awaiting his decision and has gone to the press publicly to tell them that he still wants to coach the team. Not a good sign. Florida still playing with an interim coach. New York Islanders fired the coach. Bruins still playing. Carolina still playing. Toronto still playing. Edmonton still playing. Winnipeg, coach quit midseason. Washington still playing. Minnesota still playing. Pittsburgh still playing. The Rangers still playing. Dallas still playing. Montreal played in a cup final last year. Fired the coach. Fired the general manager. Vancouver awaiting a decision on Bruce Boudreau, which they have until June 1st to figure that out. The Kings still playing. St. Louis still playing. So everybody ahead of you either fired the coach or they're going to fire the coach. And the team behind you that didn't make the playoffs, Philadelphia in the preseason rankings, they fired the coach. It's just so ridiculous. And I just want to use this Titans thing, and I'll say this. All of the preseason expectations across the country are going to have the Indianapolis Colts ahead of the Titans. Are you okay with the Titans finishing behind the Colts this year?
In preseason rankings
No,
or in real life rankings?
In reality, in the 2022 season.
No.
No! Of course you're not okay with it.
No.
We're not okay with it. So if the Titans go to the playoffs, and I hear this a lot, the Titans got bounced in the first round of the playoffs the last 2 years too, and we were freaking pissed about it. I mean, we went off. We talked about getting rid of the quarterback for 2 months. And we're not going to be this mad about the Predators losing in this playoff series, but we're going to be mad. So when I saw these preseason rankings, I was like, okay. So now Vrabel has the defense that the Predators, John Hines, is trying to use right now, which is, they picked us to finish 7th, and Philip Forsberg said they picked us to be around Arizona, and it's like, dude, come on now.
And I do wonder how much of that maybe fueled this chip on the shoulder mentality for the Predators this season.
Totally.
If that's what they want to use, they counted us out, they didn't want us, that's fine. That's what fuels you, whatever, that's fine. But that's not going to be justification for you getting swept in the playoffs.
Yeah, you use that stuff. You bring that stuff to the public when you win. You bring that to the public of, hey, we remember Jared Stillman on June 16, 2021 said this team wasn't going to be any good.
The Cincinnati Bengals.
What do you think now, Jared Stillman?
The Cincinnati Bengals last year could say that.
Yes,
because
Calgary can say it right now.
But, if you look at the Athletic article, the preseason rankings, it's all built on speculation, and it's so much easier for us to look at this and compare it to, what we know of now and kind of reflect on it in the NHL, knowing how it turned out. They have the Broncos sitting at 9. Do we know if the Broncos are going to be any good? We can speculate that they might be good with Russell Wilson under center, but we don't know, and it's all speculation. So why would we take this to heart?
Here's what I'll say.
When it's all speculation.
I'll go over the teams that are ranked ahead of the Titans, and I will ask you this question. Will we be okay if this team finishes ahead of the Titans?
Okay.
Cleveland.
No.
Vegas.
No.
Indy.
No.
Dallas. Well, forget the NFC. Baltimore.
No.
No. Denver.
No.
Chargers.
No.
Bengals.
I would get it. I wouldn't be okay with it, but I would get it.
Chiefs and Bills.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you were to sit here and say that, well, the Athletic picked us to be behind Cleveland and we ended up behind Cleveland, I don't care. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. And it almost feels like it's insulting our intelligence when they constantly say that over and over again. The first time you say it, okay. The second time, you want us to hear it. The third time, now you're just saying it, and now it's making me mad.
Now it's just an excuse.
Max, do we have that Forsberg where he was talking about like the expectations or how people picked them, like how low people picked the Predators to finish? Because I don't ever remember this. And yet it's like they're trying to highlight this as they were like a minor league team that went up there and proved they could play in the major leagues. This was Forsberg.
I'm proud of the guys. Like I said, you see the team going in the right direction. Nobody had us going to the playoffs. Nobody had us pushing for anything, but basically to beat Arizona, for the bottom spot in the division. I thought we did a lot of good things that we can build on. As every time we stand here, it's up to every individual to come back ready to go and be better.
That is so soft.
And I mean, it's preseason, and I'll always go back to the fact, do you always want to be held accountable to what people thought of you in August? I mean, why can't your expectations change? I look back today because I saw some 2022 college football preseason rankings that were out. I looked at 2021 just to see how they fell out. Clemson was predicted preseason to be number 3. Do you think after Clemson and after DJ Uiagalelei just looked like hot garbage that people expected Clemson to finish 3rd? No,
well,
because your
Clemson
expectations
fans were really
changed.
mad. Clemson fans were really mad this year about how bad they were.
Yeah, and they should be mad, but I'm just saying your expectations change based off of performance. So whenever Philip Forsberg was on a heater, whenever the Predators were on a 11, 12, 13 game winning streak, did you still not think that you were going to make the playoffs? Your expectations change.
What do we have in the text line? I get to a couple here because I got this AJ story is too funny. What do we have in the text line?
Ricky texts in and says the Titans are always going to be the underdog team nationally. The Titans are better than 15th. The Preds on paper weren't better than 20th. No one thought that the Preds team would make the playoffs. Everyone expects the Titans to win the division locally. Always.
I mean, I would say that the power rankings throughout most of the year had the Predators around 12th or 13th. They finished 16th. So can I be mad about that?
No, because that's not preseason.
Oh, so preseason is what matters.
It's whatever fits the narrative.
What else we got?
Another texter texts in and says, it drives me crazy the wishy-washy trajectory that the Predators are on. There's no such thing as a competitive rebuild. You can play in the middle, either rebuild or play with what you've got. It takes way too long for us to dump older stars. We're always 2 or 3 years too late holding on to these guys.
I agree. I think David Poile falls in love with his own players too much. I think the Shea Weber thing was like, I loved that trade because it proved that there was nobody bigger than the program. And ever since then, it's like, it feels like give. And they give, and then they get nothing in return. And that is bothering me. It bothers me a lot. 615-737-1025. I can't do 4 hours complaining about the Predators. I did that yesterday, and I cannot do 4 whole hours. So we will get back to your Preds phones. But A.J. Brown, and I'm going to say, this should make you feel better about the Titans' decision. We'll get to that next right here. Stillman and Company is on the program. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to get in. Nashville's own Big Machine Distillery wants to send you to the inaugural Tennessee Whiskey Trail experience to celebrate International Tennessee Whiskey Day on May 21st at Nissan Stadium. Text whiskey to 615-737-1025 to enter to win a pair of tickets.
Do you have that one person or thing that just makes you mad? Join us every Friday at noon on the DDC for You Just Made the List. Fueled by Parman Energy. Visit ParmanEnergy.com. Your one-stop petroleum solution, and try Star Movie on the DDC on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You just made the list. Getting enough sides so you don't have to share? That's finger licking good. Order the KFC Side Lovers Meal today and get 3 large KFC sides served with 8 pieces of tenders or fried chicken. Prices of participation may vary.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Hot and humid this afternoon. High temperature of 90 would tie the record high. Heat index will put us up around 94, and a few isolated showers will also be possible.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Introducing the first Nashville location of Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Midtown. Perfect for all fitness levels. Join a community that will help every person unleash their inner champ with fun, effective, and empowering group boxing circuit workouts. Become a founding member today. Stop by the brand new studio in Midtown at 2041 Broadway, Suite C, or call 629-206-9092 to join the family exclusive. Pre-opening rates now available. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe here to tell you about Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. Dr. Rice, listen, we all have cavities, but what's the best way to try and keep them from happening?
Cavities are like any other health condition. You don't really know you have one until it gets bad. Recently, I saw a patient for treatment that they had been putting off. Something that could have been simple to fix 6 months ago turned out to need a root canal and a crown. Postponing treatment costs more and takes time away from work.
Nobody wants a root canal, so you're right. Regular checkups are very important.
Well, we do things differently. I want to let people know that if they're afraid of pain or worried about the cost, they are not alone. Don't be embarrassed. We understand. Give us a call at 615-373-4488. That's KellyERice.com.
Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. If you don't have dental insurance, no problem. Be sure to join their membership club. Just visit KellyERice.com or call 615-373-4488 now to schedule your cleaning and checkup. You'll certainly be glad you did.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution. And Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at parmantractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Hey, Nashville, what's the best part of hockey? That's rhetorical. We all know the answer. It's the 3-on-3 overtime, the speed, the skill, the tic-tac-toe passing. It is electric. Well, now there's a new, totally 3-on-3 ice hockey league called 3 Ice, coming to the Music City on August 6th. They're playing at Bridgestone Arena, and tickets are available now at 3ice.com. 6 teams touring across 9 cities, playing a bracket-style tournament at each stop. It's overtime all the time. Hair on fire hockey. Log on to 3ice.com for tickets now.
This is Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
AJ, did you request a trade from Tennessee, and if so, can you help explain why?
I'm gonna try not to get into all that, but I'm not gonna look backwards. Moving forward, and like I said, I'm excited.
There you go, A.J. Brown saying, hey, no comment on the did I request a trade. The answer to that is yes. A.J. requested a trade. And Titan fans were so mad. And Joe Rexrode was mad. He'll be on for Jared versus Joe. Oh, is he mad? And nobody wanted to hear this. Remember, it was funny. Somebody texted me and was like, you've already, this was before the draft. And they said, you've already set up to be happy no matter what or be unhappy no matter what the Titans do. You say you don't want offensive linemen unless they're tackles because you don't want guards. You say that you don't want, these secondary players because you don't value them. You say you don't want whatever. And then they made the trade, the AJ trade. They draft Traylon Burks. They move back. Then they get more picks. And I turned on the radio that day, and Joe is just beside himself. And A to Z Sports is launching bottle rockets about how terrible this move was for the Titans, and columns are written and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, I'm kind of cool with it. And people were mad at me, and I was like, yeah, they don't think Tannehill can win, and they're tired of dealing with AJ's crap. And the truth is AJ Brown's a total diva. And there was a great example of this yesterday, the A.J. Brown camp. Did you know anything about the A.J. Brown camp?
I knew that he was going to have one. That was all I knew.
Okay, so A.J. Brown had been advertising a camp that he was going to have at NBA. And so it was like, book your spot at the A.J. Brown camp, or if you want to sponsor a kid, reach out and you'll be able to sponsor kids for the A.J. Brown camp. So then, right after A.J. got traded, this is amazing. Right after A.J. got traded, A.J.'s team or whatever, the people that ran the A.J. Brown camp, and I guess, I don't know, I don't do these things, but I'm guessing a lot of it is like, this company comes to these players and says, hey, we'd like to run the Jared Stillman camp, and so will you come by and take pictures and sign autographs and whatever, and we'll pay you X amount of money, and then they keep the money and whatever. And so immediately there was an email out that was, the camp, AJ will no longer be a part of the AJ Brown camp because AJ got traded. So we're looking for a replacement player. Please work with us throughout this process or whatever. So all these kids signed up for AJ's camp. AJ gets traded. AJ's out. AJ then yesterday posts about AJ's new camp. So he's got a new camp in Starkville, Mississippi. That is the A.J. Brown 2022 camp. Up to 20 teams have been invited at Starkville High School, and the winner will receive a championship trophy
Oh.
to A.J. Brown camp. So that's the A.J. camp. Well, undoubtedly, and I wasn't totally following this yesterday, but I guess a lot of people that paid money for the A.J. camp here are not happy about it because A.J. canceled his camp. And in all seriousness, during the summer, AJ still could have done the camp.
Did he cancel the camp?
Well, they didn't cancel the camp, but his involvement with the camp is canceled. So they've said they're looking for a replacement player.
And
so AJ took to Twitter.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. This tweet, of course, has also been deleted because it's AJ.
Yeah.
Quote, before you get all in your feelings, my team is trying to get your very own Derek to run the camp. I didn't cancel the camp. I just got someone that you all want to see, period. Take care. That from AJ.
So sassy.
So not only did AJ, basically say, screw the kids. I'm not doing that anymore.
And you guys don't like me anyways, so why would you want to come to my camp anyway?
Even though you've all paid money to already come to my camp.
Yeah.
Screw you all.
Even
I'm
though the
out.
fans didn't do anything. The fans didn't ship him out.
Then AJ wants to tweet out that I didn't say screw you all. I'm trying to get Derrick Henry to do the camp. So now it's on Derrick Henry's plate of, are you going to do the AJ camp?
And the people who are running the camp are like, dang it, AJ. What if Derrick doesn't do it? Then the people who are signed up for it say, okay, we wanted AJ, didn't get AJ. And then AJ said Derrick, and we were excited about Derrick. And then no Derrick.
And then we got Amani Hooker.
Which is great.
But it's not AJ or
It's not
Derrick.
AJ or Derrick.
And so here's what I think. I was talking about what I think is going to happen with the Predators. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think Byard's going to do it.
Which would be fun.
I have no sourcing on that. He might already have his own camp, though. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
But I see Byard as the guy who's like, I'll do it just so everybody will be happy. He's a player of enough clout that if you signed up for AJ, but you got Byard, it's not the same as signing up for AJ, but you get Nico Autry. But the moral of the story here is AJ is so incredibly immature. And it is the same crap. There's something stupid that AJ easily could have made not a problem, that he then took personal for what people said on Twitter, and then he went out and said something even stupider, and because he did that, now all of a sudden everybody's looking at AJ's drama. And I got to tell you, when people like this, get money, those habits usually become greater. Like, it usually becomes more. And I'm not saying that, I'm not sitting here doing what a lot of local media would do when a player gets traded, of being like, oh, that guy was full of drama anyways, and our team didn't want him. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that when it comes down to the AJ versus Traylon Burks in the third-round pick debate, you have to factor in, and we did, AJ's injury history, AJ's Twitter fingers, and more importantly, what the Twitter fingers represent, which is his lack of maturity. And that's what this is. And so Jalen Hurts, I think he's a great guy, for the way he handled himself at Alabama. But Gary Danielson told us one time that he went to Alabama practice and he knew that Tua was the guy that the players rather play for than Jalen Hurts. And so is Jalen Hurts a strong enough personality to reel AJ in? Because clearly AJ is not going to Philadelphia. I don't know Sirianni. I think he's kind of a goofball, but I doubt he can be as stern as Vrabel. I mean, with a lack of structure and with more money and more responsibility and higher expectations and a more abrasive fan base, this feels like this could be trouble for A.J. Brown.
If he felt so attacked by the Titans fan base, not just once, not just twice, but several times over the past, month, and especially this tweet that is so dramatic. I got someone that you all want to see. Because you don't like me. Instead of coming out and saying, hey, thank you so much for signing up for my
thank you for being a part of the camp. Thank you for sponsoring kids.
I hate that I can't be part of it anymore, but it will ensure that your experience is just the same.
And saying something, and if you did get Derrick Henry, than saying, hey, we worked really hard to make this work. I'm so thankful for Derek to be able to come in and host
for the
camp.
sponsors of the camp.
And everybody, I will love you for forever. But it wasn't. It was, screw you guys, take it. It was like an O.J. Simpson Twitter video. If you've ever seen one of those, hey, Twitter world, this is yours truly. I think it's so interesting watching these NBA and NHL playoffs with the way they play. Talks for about a minute and a half saying whatever he wants and ends it with, ha, ha, ha. I'm just saying, take care. Like, that was AJ's tweet.
But less happy-go-lucky and a little bit more sass.
I mean, and like, AJ, why do you give a hoot about what these people, and if I had paid money for the A.J. Brown camp and I ended up at the Amani Hooker camp, I wouldn't be very happy.
No. But I think,
no disrespect to Amani Hooker, but,
I think, too, just the taking of everything so seriously. Like, dude, you are about to make $25 million a year. You're better than that.
And not only that, if you're taking what the people here are saying about the A.J. Brown camp seriously.
That's another thing.
What's going to happen when you drop the ball in Philadelphia?
When they're coming for you personally.
The people who boot Santa.
Who boots Santa? Who does that?
So that, look, you can say whatever you want about A.J. Brown. I just, the more and more that has come out between like what he told TD and what TD reported, from the Titans standpoint, the more that has come out, the more I see A.J. as a liability. And I always felt A.J. was a liability.
Mm-hmm.
I said it right there at training camp that I would trade A.J. Brown when he kept getting hurt, and A.J. stared at Gentry Estes because A.J. thought it was Gentry who said it. You know me. I don't care. I'd say to A.J., I said
he was angry.
Oh, he was mad.
And my response to that is, why do you care? Go out there and do your job.
Well, you know why he cares. He's sensitive.
Oh, and he feels disrespected.
He listens to everybody, and you got to not do that, man. You cannot. I'll be honest with you. You can't do this job if you sit there and listen to what everybody says.
Oh, no.
How many F. Jareds are in the text line on a daily basis?
A whole lot of them. Somebody called me pathetic the other day.
I'm not saying
people are mean. But also, someone in the text line, I don't know how true this is, but says that there have been two names that have popped up as a replacement for the camp.
Let me guess. Derrick Henry.
Yes.
I'm working through this.
You're not going to guess the second
one. No, I'm going to get it right. All right, give me a side of the ball.
Offense.
Timmy.
Burks.
Oh my God. Okay, all right. So last night I was on the phone with somebody and I was joking around and I was like, at the end of the day, it's just going to be Traylon Burks who has to do AJ's job for him, just like with the Titans. The Traylon Burks camp.
The A.J. Brown camp became the
Traylon Burks camp. You
which
literally
makes
have,
sense. You traded
you
one
have
for the
AJ's
other.
position. You have AJ's locker. I'm sorry. I know you wore number 16 in college, and I don't think anybody wears 16 here, but you're number 11 here, and you now have to go run AJ's camp for him.
And your jersey might say Brown.
And it might say Brown. 615-737-1025. Jared versus Joe. Joe Rexrode will join us next. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. That's right. The NBA playoffs are heating up, and you can make every game feel like Game 7 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app, an official partner of the NBA. Throughout the playoffs, all customers can place a no-sweat same-game parlay each week, and you'll get up to $20 in free bets if you do not win. FanDuel has so many ways to play, and best of all, when you do win, you'll get paid faster than a fast break. Let me tell you who I absolutely love in these playoffs. Golden State. Because with no Ja, that baby is over. I know. 20-5. Okay, yeah. Golden State. New to FanDuel, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up with the promo code JGM to get your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Once again, that's promo code JGM. And if you already have an account, you're all set to bet, no sweat. Either way, you'll get up to $20 in free bets if your same-game parlay during the playoffs doesn't win. FanDuel Sportsbook, my official sportsbook app and an official partner of the NBA. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. Refund issue is non-withdrawable free bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Max free bet, $20 per week. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen. The city famous for its music is about to be overwhelmed by the Symphony of Speed. June 24th through 26th, Nashville Super Speedway will host an exciting weekend of NASCAR racing and entertainment featuring the Ally 400 Cup Series race, the Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Rackley Roofing 200. Tickets are going fast, so visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com or call 866-RACE-TIX and brace yourself for some full-throttle fun.
Realizing Geico's great service and licensed agents are available at your fingertips is like realizing the plastic piece that comes with your pizza isn't a tiny doll table. It's to keep the box from touching the pizza.
Hey, the pizza's stuck to the box. Where's that little plastic thing?
Dolly needed it for her tea party.
It's something that's been right there in front of you all along, like the dedicated Geico claims team available to you in the event of an accident to get you back on the road quickly, or how your smartphone charges faster when you put it on airplane mode.
Wow, what if I put it on rocket mode?
It's something you can't believe you never realized before, like how Geico's industry-leading app lets you pay your bill, file a claim, manage your policy, or summon help when you need it. Or how those holes in your shower caddy are there so you can store your shampoo bottles upside down.
Showers happen fast when you're not waiting on shampoo.
Great service. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
This is Chef John from Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville. Inviting you to come join us for breakfast and lunch. We are offering some exciting new menu items. For breakfast, we have a smoked prime rib hash. Comes with a sunny side up egg, hominy, caramelized onions. It's a great start to your day. We are featuring a sourdough pancake made with a sourdough bread starter. It's a fun spin on the classic buttermilk pancake. As always, Kitchen Notes is serving biscuits all day. Come join us and create a memorable experience here at the Omni Hotel. Food is all about memories for us. We'd like you to start a new memory here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Hotel.
Breakfast at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
NASCAR is back. Kyle Larson returns to Nashville Superspeedway a winner.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell media station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stone and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Streaming live, presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. I have been desperately looking for something that I cannot find, and it is killing me, and I'm not going to tell you yet what it is because it involves Joe Rexrode, who joins us now for Jared versus Joe. Joe Rexrode, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
I am outstanding. Let's get right to the debating because that's what the people want.
Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexrode. Now on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game.
Jared versus Joe is brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, Nashville, Midtown, the gold standard in boxing. Joe took 2 L's last week because both Robby Stanley and Caroline Fenton, who was keeping score at home, gave the decision to one yours truly. Joe, let's get it on Caroline.
Joe, our guest of honor, you go first. My question for both of you is, what is the Predators' plan?
Okay, so what do I think they're going to do?
I think this is a really good question. Is it what Joe thinks they're going to do, or is it what Joe thinks they should do?
It is, what do you think the Predators are going to do?
I think they're going to retain their management and coaching situation. I think they're going to figure out a way to re-sign Philip Forsberg, although I don't feel great about that. But, I think that they probably will ultimately cross the line that's been drawn and get that done. And then I think that, they will try to add someone this offseason in free agency who can give them another, top 6 forward, which they desperately need. I think Connor Ingram will be the backup goalie next year. I think that they won't be markedly or dramatically different. And I think that they'll go into next year and they'll be a fringe playoff team again. And I think that increasingly, as we've already seen, people will tire of this. And, if you go down that path and you don't end up making the playoffs, now not only are you continuing to kind of stay in that middle ground that's hard to get out of, but now, ownership, which I think very much there's pressure from there in terms of making the playoffs. If you get below that line, then I think the discontent's just going to grow. I know you didn't ask me for my commentary on that stuff, but that's just how I see things going. I don't think they're going to do anything dramatic.
So I actually almost completely agree with Joe. I think they're going to keep the coach. They're going to give him the one-year option. They're going to keep the general manager. And then I think ownership is going to come knocking. And they're going to say, hey, our fans are not happy with just making the playoffs. So we need to get our fans excited. And then I think they're going to overspend on Forsberg. I think they're going to give him the no-movement clause that he wants. I think they're going to overspend in free agency for guys that are probably good pieces on really good teams, but not the guy. And they're going to hype that up just like, it probably will be one step below Duchesne, but it'll probably be a signing like that. Like they'll go add guys that are out there but are not true impact game-changing players. And I think they'll add 2 or 3 of those guys to be like, see, we are going for it, just like the New Jersey Devils did when John Hines was the coach, and they traded for P.K. Subban, and they signed Wayne Simmons. I think the Predators will do a couple of those. I don't think those guys will be any good, so they'll be tying up money into that. And then I think that ultimately they'll get out there. It'll take a while to gel. The guys won't pop as soon as they want them to pop. And then I think Hines will be out of here by January 1st. But that is what I think they're going to do. It's not what I would do, but I do think that the pressure from ownership is coming this offseason, and it will result in that cap space that they're excited about in their competitive rebuild to then be used. And I wouldn't be surprised if they trade some quality assets down the road in order to get guys to help right now, because I do think that there will be pressure on them to win right now. And when that happens, usually it goes one of 2 ways, and normally it goes the opposite way that it is intended. But that is what I think they will do.
I agree with you both, and both of you say that John Hines will return. So my question for you, Jared, go first. What has John Hines done to keep his job?
John Hines won a gold medal in 2006 with the Team USA under-18 national team. So he did that.
Okay.
He turned around the horrendous start to the 2021 season last year. And he got them all to parrot his identity chat, even though I don't know what their identity actually is.
Then I guess my follow-up is, why should he keep his job?
He should not. John Hines has not done anything to keep his job. He has not accomplished anything with the Nashville Predators. When he was hired, the idea was that he was going to take the guys that were underperforming and right then and there, not 3 years later, turn them into a contending team again. He never did that. And that was what we were promised when he took the job because, New Jersey's rebuilding, but we're ready to go. And he didn't do that. He lost in the bubble series to a horrendous Arizona team. And last year they did okay. They turned it around. There was at least a little bit of optimism. This year they did the opposite, and they got smoked, and there's no optimism, and John Hines should not keep his job. And honestly, I think that if you're worried about fans showing up, you should not put pressure on the general manager to go out and get players to get people excited. You should fire the coach and probably fire the general manager to get people excited. But to answer your question, he has done nothing to keep his job, in my opinion.
Joe, why should John Hines keep his job?
It's amazing how you revise history, Jared. No one promised any immediate, here it is, it's just going to get turned around. When they fired Laviolette, it was really more on David Poyle than it was on Laviolette at the time because of all the mistakes that David Poyle had made to get them there. But
you know who didn't admit that? You know who didn't believe that? David Poyle didn't believe that. Go ahead, Jared. David Poyle did not believe that. I said David Poyle didn't believe that it was David Poyle's fault.
Great. Can I talk?
Go ahead.
David Poyle was more at fault then, and my whole issue with I don't understand why you are so hell-bent on Hines here. I think Hines has been fine. I think Hines has been pretty good. He inherited a pretty bad team that was going totally in the wrong direction, and he's gotten to the postseason 3 out of 3 times. If you don't look at what happened with Matt Duchene and give him any credit, then you just don't want to give him any credit. You're just resolved to give him no credit because he took Matt Duchene and he really played hardball with him like probably no one had done in Duchene's career, and he got the best year out of Duchene's career this year. I don't see how you could possibly omit John Hines from credit in that situation. That's someone who just doesn't want to believe that he's done anything good. He's been fine. The thing that would be infuriating to me is that you would fire Hines and let Poyle do it and hire another coach.
Well, you know I would. You listen to this show enough to know that I have never said that.
Well, but you want to isolate Hines here. That's a complete mistake.
She isolated Hines with the question.
Whoa.
No, I understand that,
Did
Jared,
you?
but I've heard a lot of your show today. I heard your first half hour when I was texting you, like, you got to be kidding me. No one, when he was hired, said, and here, now they're going to take off. It was a bad situation, and basically, Poyle sacrificed Laviolette. Now, does Laviolette's voice tire? Does it grow weary on people after a while? Yes. Did it here? Yes. But still, Poyle was more at fault then. He's certainly more at fault now, and you're just muddying the waters by even going to Hines at all. Hines is not the problem. Hines has been fine.
So I have said this many a times, and I stand the last 2 days, and I stand by it. I think Hines should be fired on his own merits, and I think Poyle has done nothing to help him out. And I think Poyle should be fired on his own merit, and I don't think Hines did anything to help him out. That's my theory on the two. I don't think Hines overcoached a bad roster, but I don't think, and I think it is a bad roster, but I think Hines sucks. I think his bench strategy was terrible. I think the way that he's played these young players, the fact that the young players are not turning corners is horrendous. I mean, John Hines got a Hart Trophy out of Taylor Hall in New Jersey, and what did that get him? 150, 159, and 45. So congratulations on getting 40 goals out of Matt Duchene. You got blown out in 4 games.
Do you know how bad they were? They were so bad. And then those pickups, Subban, we all knew he was done. We all knew that the Preds had to deal him after the Dallas series in 19. They did.
Right.
Wayne Simmons, we saw him here too. I mean, they were terrible. The Devils were terrible. I'm going strictly. I don't care what happened in New Jersey. You're going back to old press conferences, which frankly is a little bit weird. I am looking purely at what John Hines has done here. I think he's been pretty good. I think he's been fine. And you can talk about young players. Look, Ellie Tolvin, I suppose if you're going to give him credit for, players who do well, you got to look at him and Ellie Tolvin. That's fair. That's fine. I don't know what's happened with Tolvanen. It's very concerning.
Fabro.
Like Tomasino, you guys brought – well, Fabro got better this year. He was a disaster last year.
Did he get better this year?
Yes, but he's still not good enough, and he's not what his draft status was. But yes,
Carrier
is fine. He took a little bit step back. Tomasino, you guys brought him up. I mean, I don't know what you expected from him this year, but if you expected more than what he gave you, then you're being totally unrealistic. And he's a promising young player. But again, your criticisms of Hines are what he didn't play Yossi on the penalty kill. The dude plays 28 minutes a game. Remind me to never hire you as my coach. You want to put Yossi on the penalty kill? Like, what are you talking about? You don't have, a legitimate criticism of Hines as a bench coach.
Oh, I mean, other than the fact that I want my defensemen to play on my penalty kill against the best power play, the fact that I don't like the fact that you're trying to competitively rebuild your team by scratching your young players in back-to-back playoff series when you knew that you weren't a cup contender. Instead of letting your young players get experience, what did you do? You scratched them. What?
Again, Jared, if you go into a playoff series and say, well, we might have a better chance of winning this way, but you know what? Let's get these young players some experience. You're fired. You're the worst coach ever. Get out of here. You have to do whatever it is that you think can win that particular night in the playoffs. You don't think about your young players getting experience in the playoffs. That's what the regular season's for, Jared.
Then you're not rebuilding. then you're not rebuilding. If you'd
fine,
rather
but
play
that's not
Eric
John Hines.
Goodbranson
That's
to
not
win
John
that
Hines.
game over Dante Fabro, then you have no future in mind. You're only thinking about one game, and that is not smart. That is not what rebuilding teams do. Rebuilding teams let young players get experience.
Jared. The coach coaches the team and tries to win every game. The GM rebuilds. Look, we're pretty much aligned on Poyle. You've just wasted everyone's time. All this crap you've been talking about Hines. It makes no sense.
Joe, can I ask you a question? What has John Hines ever won?
Dude, he's a young coach who coached a rebuilding, really bad team for a few years, and he came here to a team on a drastically downward trajectory and has done pretty well here. He hasn't won anything. He's a young coach in the NHL. Is he going to be great? I don't know. Is he a coach you can win a Stanley Cup with? I don't know. If you could get Barry Trotz over John Hines, sure, of course. I mean, if you can get a proven coach who's done things at the highest level, of course I would prefer that to John Hines. But again, you're totally misguided in trying to look at this situation and blame him for it.
I'm not blaming him for the situation. I'm just firing him because he's
are.
not a good coach. And the results bear it. At some point, you have to win. At some point, you have to win. Remind me, other than Barry Switzer, how many coaches go into good rosters and good situations?
Well, I understand that, Jared. He's gotten to the postseason 3 out of 3 chances. I mean, this is not a good situation. It's not a very good roster. And when you want to blame Hines as much as you do, you're taking it away from Poyle, whether you think you are or not. There's no way David Poyle should be allowed to fire a coach right now and hire another one.
No, I don't think so. I think they should both be fired. That's what I
is
started
you're
the show
saying.
off with yesterday.
No, that's what you're saying.
Joe
You may not
Rexrode's
realize
with
that
us,
that's what
round 2 of Jared versus Joe. That is next, 615-737-1025. Let me tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I've been using Hiller at my home for years, and they are absolutely fantastic. That's right. Hiller is so easy. I just go on my phone right there. I get them out to my home. I haven't used Hiller in a while because I haven't had any problems. That's because they take great care, and they do a great job. Right now, there's no better time to upgrade your essential home systems than this month. Until the end of May, Hiller is offering 0 interest for 60 months on select new HVAC systems, 0 interest for 12 months on new tankless water heaters, 0 interest for 12 months on new whole home generators. And if you know you need a new system for your home, do it this month. These financing offers are available for a limited time only to help you stay comfortable and cool all summer and handle the payments later. Visit happyhiller.com for all the details. As always, happy you'll be, or the service is free. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Tennessee Volunteers, and Vandy. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
Is brought to you by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's me, Chase McCabe, and listen, you know that I love BetMGM. I use it all the time, and I talk about it all the time. They are the king of sportsbooks, and they unleash the spirit of Las Vegas with BetMGM rewards. Every time you make a wager at BetMGM, you can earn BetMGM rewards points that you can redeem for online bonus credits like free bets and risk-free tokens. If you're planning a trip to Vegas, like I am, you can also convert your BetMGM points into MGM rewards points that you can use towards dining, shows, and hotel rooms at over 20 MGM Resorts properties located on the Las Vegas Strip and nationwide. BetMGM Rewards is sports betting's premier loyalty program featuring exclusive offers, incredible experiences, and valuable perks when you wager on the BetMGM app. Sign up with BetMGM or log on today and get an even bigger piece of the action with BetMGM Rewards. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Tennessee only. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Attention, buckaroos. It's time for the Franklin Rodeo. So saddle up and hold on to your lasso. It's 3 days of bull riding, calf roping, western wear, funny clowns, and some of the most talented horses you've ever seen. Join the Stampede from May 19th to May 21st. The Franklin Rodeo is held at the Williamson County Ag Expo Park and is brought to you by Franklin Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, Williamson Medical Center, Wesley Mortgage, and Event 1FX. Tickets on sale now at franklinrodeo.com. It's a buckin' good time.
If you're shopping for a new home, the last thing you want is another surprise jump in mortgage rates.
Hey, Willie Donick here, excited to tell you about Loan Pronto's all-new rate protection program. You get a rate quote that is locked in for 180 days, 6 whole months. Brian and Amy did it. They locked in an APR in the 3s with Loan Pronto. When they finally found a home a month later, rates had jumped into the 4s, but they were protected thanks to Loan Pronto, and they saved over $200 a month on their payment. With Loan Pronto's rate protection guarantee, you can make offers with confidence. And there's no fee for this, no upfront cost. And most home buyers who go with Loan Pronto save about $3,000 in closing costs. Call now for the all-new rate protection program so you can check rate increases off the list of things to worry about. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. 499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval.
Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexrode. Now on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game.
Jared versus Joe is brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Mayweather Boxing and Fitness Nashville Midtown, the gold standard in boxing. Joe, I have a new nickname for you I think you will appreciate with the way that you enjoy nicknames. You ready for it?
Sure.
Joe Hines Road. What do you think?
It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Joe Hines Road.
Joe Hines Road. All right,
I think that's the
fine.
best we got.
There you go.
That's the best we got.
I just thought of it 5 seconds ago.
Come on,
Joe
you.
Hines Road for round number 2. Caroline, what do we have?
First question for you. Why can't the Predators commit to a full-on rebuild? Joe, you go first.
Well, I think the answer really is, well, there's a couple things. First of all, so let's distinguish. When you say full-on rebuild, do you mean a tank? Like tank it all the way, get rid of everything, get picks, get prospects, and hope that you can get a top pick and that it times up with a generational kind of player? Is that what we're talking about when we say full-on rebuild?
Yes. Not a
Okay.
competitive rebuild or the
Yeah.
sidestepping on the fly rebuild. A full-on rebuild.
Because I do believe there are grades of rebuild, right? And I think
Yes.
you can rebuild more than they are doing. I'm a believer in be very careful on the tank situation because yes, you can look around and find some of these teams. Like you mentioned earlier on the show, Jared. The Leafs, Austin Matthews. I mean, you can look around and find some success stories, but you can also certainly find these teams that have been trapped in that for a long, long time, including some very proud franchises, by the way. So I'm not a huge believer in just the full-on tank. And to answer, when you say your question is why, well, I think that there is a business aspect to this without question, and I think that there is a concern, a fear that if you went 2, 3, 4 years without the playoffs, that you would really lose a lot of people and that it would really hit your bottom line hard. And that's just a little different in this league than it is in, say, the NFL, So that, to me, is the why. I would propose that rather than tanking, if that's what you mean by full-on rebuild, that you can – and, look, you guys talked about it earlier in the show, and I generally agree with it. You figure out what your core is, and then, you're willing to make some bold moves to try to continue to get younger and try to reform a little bit. That to me is not quite the full-on rebuild, but I still think that in that situation you may not have to take a step back for too long. But I really think I think it's on the Poyle end of things. Maybe it is. I think he's been Stanley Cup chasing since 2017. I think it's led to quite a few bad decisions. And so I don't think he even wants to entertain the idea of a long dip. But I think from the ownership perspective, and by the way, I fully agree with Adam Bingen that I'd like to hear from someone in ownership. I really think that the business considerations have to be considered here.
Man, that was 3 whole minutes. I would say this.
Joe.
I do agree with Joe that I believe the ownership of the Predators does not want a team at the bottom of the league. I agree with that. I think the bigger thing for Poyle is that instead of facing reality, I think he believes the false narratives that we have gone over on this show time and time again. I think he talks himself into really bad decisions. And then everybody there just takes their orders from that bad decision. And instead of questioning the idea of like, are we really giving up a second-round pick for Jeremy Lazan? It's like, no, he's 25 years old, and he's been in a couple organizations, and we're going to use him right and develop him right, and we're going to this and that and this. And so I think it's kind of like a way that they talk themselves into things. I struggle with a lot of times people say that they think that I don't believe the things that I say. I think you two can both agree that I believe the things that I say. Fair?
Yes, you do.
Sometimes I hope not, but sure.
Right. I mean, but there's like a lot of people, I see it like people on Twitter, there's no way he can believe the things that he says, and I totally do. So when the Predators say and do things that I absolutely cannot believe, maybe they actually believe them, like the Cody Glass thing or whatever. And I just don't think that there's anybody there that throws up the red flag that says, no, that's ridiculous. And so I think that, they're all trained that way, that if Poyle says it, it must be true, and that narrative will come true, and on we go. And that's why I think he talks himself into this team being able to compete. And I said this, I want to say on Monday, like the last thing I want is to root for my team to lose. But you look back on the 2021 season, was it a good thing that they turned it around and made the playoffs and had a competitive series with Carolina? Because right now I'm starting to think it wasn't. So I think Poyle buys, I think he knows at 72 years old, if you rebuild your hockey team, you're not going to be the one that finishes the rebuild. And I think he doesn't want to do that. And I think that he gets just enough hope out of making the playoffs or out of what happened last year to be able to talk himself into, we're a Jeremy Lazan away and anything can happen in the playoffs. And I think that's a big problem.
Jared, next question. How much do preseason expectations matter?
Zero. Now, I do think, if it's, for instance, you've got an expansion team and you've got all young players and somehow you coach them up and you make it to the Stanley Cup, like I think that's obviously bravo, well done. But this is not the NCAA tournament, and the Predators are not St. Mary's or St. Peter's or St. whoever's, St. Sister Jean's. They're not that team. This is pro sports. And the Bengals last year had no preseason expectations. And I think a lot of us thought, Burrow and Chase could be pretty good. And all of a sudden they made it. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that they didn't win the Super Bowl. I have no expectation for Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence could be really good. That could be a problem the Titans have to deal with. But I just don't think it matters. Like to come to me and say like, hey, our preseason expectations weren't good, so we just barely outperformed those preseason expectations is very Butch Jones of you. And it really ignores reality, which is what people care about. And Tennessee fans got to a point to where they didn't care about recruiting rankings, and they didn't care about tax slayer bowls anymore, and they turned on Butch Jones. And I think that's starting to happen here with the fans and with this line of narration of, the preseason expectations had us 20th, and we finished 16th.
Yeah, so you're fundamentally wrong here, Jared. My gosh, half of what we do in a year is basically shaping expectations.
Yeah, but everything that we do doesn't matter.
Right. Okay, fine. But listen, and I know you did, and you weren't alone, but when the Vols were the SEC preseason favorites, you absolutely talked about that relative to the Vols that year because they came up short of expectations. Of course they matter. They help put everything in context. At the same time, are the Preds overplaying that? Massively. At this point, it's not even being brought up at all, and it's like a question about something completely separate, and someone slips in, hey, no one picked us. Believe me, I'm as annoyed by it as anybody else, but you can't make this some sweeping, all of a sudden preseason expectations don't matter. Yes, they do matter. They put things into context. You can overachieve, you can underachieve, and we're going to sit here and talk about who's the favorite in the AFC South for weeks and weeks this summer between the Colts and the Titans. That stuff does matter.
So my turn on this is The Athletic, which I'm guessing you probably voted on, had their power rankings that just dropped today for the NFL. And the Titans are behind Cleveland and the Raiders and Indy and Denver and Baltimore. And guess what? I fully expect the Titans to be better than those teams, and I'm going to be mad at Mike Vrabel if they're not. So, I mean, they can say whatever they want to say, but I expect Titans to be better than the Colts. Even though right now I think the Colts are better than the Titans, I expect Vrabel to coach them to be better than the Colts. And that's just that's why it just doesn't affect me. And to your point, you are right. Because they will ask, like you can ask the Predators right now, like, what kind of hot dog do you like? What do you like on your hot dog? And it's like, well, I like mustard and ketchup. But it's funny because nobody even picked us to finish beyond dead last in the NHL. And it's like, what? That was not the question. And I did notice that in listening to those exit interviews, Joe. Okay. Who wins?
So I think we're all on the same page here that if one goes, both of them go. Hines needs to go, Poyle needs to go, and I think we're all kind of on the same page there. And to Joe's point, I think Hines does get some credit for being able to, repair relationships with Matt Duchene, being able to turn him around, being able to turn him into a 40-goal scorer. But the caveat that I have with that is that, John Hines was able to turn Matt Duchene into a 40-goal scorer, but what came of it? They still got swept in the playoffs. I mean, yes, they had that really solid core. Yes, Roman Josi had, a record-breaking season, but still, what came of all of it? It doesn't necessarily matter if you're still going to get swept in the playoffs. To Joe's point, I don't think Fabro did get better. And I do understand that not committing to a full-on rebuild because this is a business and you want to sell tickets in the playoffs and you want to keep people engaged. And, but I don't think that you're going to get significantly better and continue to keep fans engaged long-term Stanley Cup expectations without being worse first and taking a couple steps back in order to take leaps and bounds forward. And I like citing preseason expectations after you've been bounced in the postseason, I think is so weak. So Jared wins.
Yes! Yes, 2 in a row. All right. Joe, your rebuttal.
Well, it's fine. I mean, I figured if there was a Hines question here, that it would be a preordained L. But, I mean, you still.
No, Joe, nothing is preordained.
Ooh.
Nothing is preordained.
Well, I've heard the conversation from you two about Hines, which I couldn't disagree with more. But preseason expectations, yeah, they're annoying here, but you guys can't sit here and tell me they don't matter. We talk about them all the time. Good, bad, above, below. I mean, you can say that what we do is meaningless, and I'm probably willing to get on board with that to a certain extent. But, I mean,
but
people talk
preseason
about
expectations
it.
in the NHL in May don't matter to me.
Okay, but you asked in general, do preseason expectations matter? Yes, they absolutely matter.
Well, I said how
and
much do preseason expectations matter? Because, and if we're going to talk about the NFL preseason expectations in July, then yeah, sure, because that's what we're going to chat about. But come kickoff in game 1, I don't think that really matters to me anymore.
Joe, you need to give Chris Mason some advice because he apparently wants to debate me, and so I am willing to let him do that. But now that you've lost 2 in a row, I don't know if you're the person to I don't know if you're the person to give Chris advice. So I don't know.
I may not be.
Reel it in. Don't get your head too big,
Maybe
Jared.
need to jump in here.
Joe, appreciate you as always. We will argue next week.
All right, thanks.
Jared versus Joe. So Chase told me it's like the most popular segment that we have, like by far.
Doesn't surprise me.
Honestly, I'm starting to enjoy it a lot.
The people love it.
They love it. 615-737-1025. There is a narrative that Joe brought to this show, which hurt my heart to hear. He brought it to this show, and I got to tell you, it is giving me PTSD as a Nashville sports fan who grew up here. I will explain that next. Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hey, this is Phil Forsberg. And this is Smashville.
Forsberg a shot, broken up in front, given back to Forsberg, and here come the Habs.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness LLC. Are you a grading and utility foreman who never gets recognized for a job well done at your current company? Have you been dogged for the last time? Go to selectharness.com. We're looking for 5 foremen. Our benefits and sign-on bonuses are the best in the industry. You owe it to yourself to check out selectharness.com. We care about our people. At Harness, your family, and we act like it. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired a lounge singer to be their office receptionist.
Hello, this is Mickey Marquis, and you've reached the office of Doug & Associates. Thank you very much. Catch me Tuesday nights at the Hotel Johnson. Hello?
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
Doug & Associates, this is Mickey Marquis. Hello?
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.
And now it's Geico's Motorcycle Rules of the Road. Avoid biking in the rain and never touch another person's bike.
Hey guys, look at these bikes. So shiny. Whoops. I'm gonna leave a note. Oh gosh, there's more.
And the rule to saving on motorcycle insurance is, in 15 minutes, Geico could save you 15% or more.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the next generation of drivers, where titanium ends and the carbon age begins. Introducing the new Stealth Carbonwood driver from TaylorMade, with 60 layers of carbon twist-based technology designed for better energy transfer and faster ball speeds. Come into Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops is home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, or shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Hey Nashville, what's the best part of hockey? That's rhetorical. We all know the answer. It's the 3-on-3 overtime, the speed, the skill, the tic-tac-toe passing. It is electric. Well, now there's a new, totally 3-on-3 ice hockey league called 3 Ice, coming to the Music City on August 6th. They're playing at Bridgestone Arena, and tickets are available now at 3ice.com. 6 teams touring across 9 cities, playing a bracket-style tournament at each stop. It's overtime all the time. Hair on fire hockey. Log on to 3ice.com for tickets now.
Trade pros. Whether you specialize in service or new construction, Ferguson knows firsthand how much work goes into a long day on the job, which is why we're committed to offering the products and solutions to get every job done right. With over 1,000 locations, an unmatched selection of specialty products, tools, and supplies, our pro pickup and same or next day delivery, you can trust that doing business with Ferguson will be the easiest part of your hard day's work. Visit Ferguson.com to find a counter location near you.
Listen to Stillman & Company with me, Caroline Fenton, all season long on ESPN 102.5 The Game for your chance to win Nashville Sounds tickets courtesy of 312 Pizza Company in Germantown.
ESPN's Turon Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
On the field chemistry, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a process.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
When you draft players, it's not just for one season, it's for a career.
Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Joe, can I ask you a question? What has John Hines ever won?
Dude, he's a young coach who coached a rebuilding really bad team for a few years, and he came here to a team on a drastically downward trajectory and has done pretty well here. He hasn't won anything. He's a young coach in the NHL. Is he going to be great? I don't know. Is he a coach you can win a Stanley Cup with? I don't know. If you could get Barry Trotz over John Hines, sure, of course. I mean, if you can get a proven coach who's done things at the highest level, of course I would prefer that to John Hines. But again, you're totally misguided in trying to look at this situation and blame him for it.
There you go. That was Joe just during Jared versus Joe. And I got to say, the pause when I said, Joe, what has John Hines ever won? Was that not very telling?
Well, here's my thing, is John Hines doesn't need to come in here and win 2 or 3 Stanley Cups. But my thing is, or have, this massive resume.
Sure.
But at least show me that you're progressing toward winning one. At least show me that you are establishing this foundation, or you have a plan and an identity to move forward and to win a Stanley Cup. That's not what I've seen. So he doesn't need to have the greatest resume in the world, but at least show me a little bit of progress.
Can I tell you something that is giving me serious PTSD with this John Hines stuff?
I think I have a good idea.
So the people who report on this team, on a consistent basis that are, legitimate, Gentry Estes wrote a column in the Tennessean about how Hines is doing a good job. Robby Stanley says that Hines is doing a good job. Joe is saying that Hines did a good job. John Glennon thinks that Hines is doing a good job. I just asked Adam Vingan because I don't know if he thinks Hines is doing a good job or not. I don't know. So I want to see if he's in this group with the rest or not. But the Nashville media, Hines has accomplished nothing, right? And I say that with no disrespect, but I'm saying it in reality. Has he won a division? No. Has he won a President's Trophy? No. Has he won a playoff series? No. Has he won a cup? No. So he has not won anything since he's been here. And when we say he's been to the playoffs 3 times, he's been to the playoffs 3 times, asterisk, because they lost the play-in round to get into the real playoffs against a horrendous Arizona team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think, should all be part of the discussion. When I was a kid, the Titans, when things weren't going right, the Titans, and it was constant talk radio discussion. I remember, and I don't know why I have this memory, and I don't know who the guest was, but there was a guest on with Mark Howard and Kevin Ingram and Frank Wycheck, and they were talking about Jeff Fisher, and this guest was like hell-bent up and down that if you got rid of Jeff Fisher as coach of the Titans, then he would get a job in 5 minutes, and everybody in Nashville would regret the day that they gave up on Jeff Fisher. And when I just hear everybody that covers this team scoff at the idea that Hines isn't a good coach, I get like these serious Jeff Fisher nightmares of, as a kid, having to endure horrendously coached football because Floyd got him good enough players to hide all of his problems, which I knew that Floyd was a big part of it. I didn't know how big of a part it was until I started working with him. But Jeff Fisher now, the narrative on Jeff Fisher now compared to what Jeff Fisher was a coach of the Titans, it's night and day. He is tied for the all-time losingest coach in the history of the NFL. And most people think he's a joke. Because of the Rams thing, coupled with how bad they were at the end of his Titans run. But
you know what August 8th is.
Jeff Fisher Day. But when he was coach of the Titans, people thought he was a great coach. And it was, God forbid, as a Nashvilleian, if you had a negative thought about Jeff Fisher, the police were going to show up to your house and arrest you because how dare you not think that Jeff Fisher's a great coach? And now, if you got in the car right now and you didn't live here, and there's so many people that didn't live here then, but you get in the car right now and you hear me say, how dare you think that Jeff Fisher wasn't a good coach, then they'd be like, what is this guy smoking? Because everybody thinks Jeff Fisher's a terrible coach. And so with me and John Hines, I just look at it like this. I think his bench strategy is skeptical at best. I think that his one-liners or his messaging is all right. I think the results have been terrible. And so for me, I feel Jeff Fisher all over again, and I feel like it's this finger wagging of you don't know good hockey when you see it. You don't know good coaching when you see it, Jared. And it's if it was the case, then he would have accomplished at least something.
Well, I was not here when Jeff Fisher was here, but just based off the way that you're describing the public perception of Jeff Fisher at the time, not now, but at the time, seems a little bit more dramatic than the John Hines public perception, I guess. Because I think there are probably a good fair share of Predators fans out there, just because I'm manning the text line, that are pretty anti-Hines, that are cool with parting ways with Hines. I don't know if that was necessarily the case when Jeff Fisher was here, but the way that you're describing it doesn't sound like it was.
Oh, when Jeff Fisher was the coach here, it was the great Jeff Fisher debate.
Because a lot of people, I would say 99% of the text line is get rid of John Hines.
You had to hit rock bottom. Vince Young had to throw his pads in the stands in order for the Titans to find. That 2010 team absolutely collapsed, and Vince Young throwing his pads in the stands and the lack of direction, there was no choice. And then, when Jeff Fisher got fired, he had, a very emotional press conference, and everybody's like, he's going to go get another job, and he'll show him because he's a good ball coach, and then he showed him all right. He went to the Rams, and he showed him. He showed them who was the one that was responsible for all the winning around here.
Yeah, ask St. Louis about Jeff Fisher.
And, I mean, with Hines, it's just I think Hines is very well spoken, like when you first meet him, that it sounds like there's a clear vision there because he always talks about the vision, but the vision that he always talks about very rarely actually shows itself on the ice. He talks about the identity they want to play with and how they want to be a tough physical team. And I thought they got out tough by Colorado. I thought they got beaten up by Colorado. And Colorado is not a physical team, or at least they don't claim to be. I mean, they are.
But they're bigger. They're faster.
They're bigger. They're faster. They have Nazem Kadri. Like they do,
I
whatever.
wouldn't call them not a tough team.
But they're definitely not a branded tough team. And so, it never plays itself out on the ice. So I asked Adam Vingan. If he thinks Hines – I said, do you think John Hines has done a good job in Nashville? Adam says, in some respects, yes. The problem for Hines is that a lot of his successes are anecdotal. Like the team being less fragile, you can't necessarily quantify that.
Yeah.
So,
and, if your argument is, well, they've made the playoffs every year with Hines, postseason every year with Hines.
I mean, they made the playoffs every year with Peter.
But that's not something that's new, necessarily. I mean, they did it 5 years prior.
I saw an article about whether or not it was time to fire David Poile, because there are a lot of articles coming out now. I'll give the media credit because they really have. I don't want to say put it on Poile, but there is no Poile used to be sacred cow territory, and there is no sacred cowism.
No Poile protection.
And it said, this is the National Post. Poile is the only general manager Nashville has ever known. The team wouldn't have its Stanley Cup final appearance, Western Conference title, 2 Central Divisions, or President's Trophy without him. Say the same thing about Laviolette. Laviolette won all that. He was here for that. But when they fired Laviolette, they didn't talk about all these things. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's a different standard. Phones, 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Hot and humid this afternoon. High temperature of 90 would tie the record high. Heat index will put us up around 94, and a few isolated showers will also be possible.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Do you have joint pain in your knees or hips or shoulder or back? Pro football legend Emmitt Smith knows how disruptive it is.
How can you focus? How can you be at your optimal best when your body's under attack by pain?
That's why Emmitt's such a proponent of QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is here with regenerative options using natural biologics, non-surgical alternatives that offer lasting relief for pain in your knees, hips, lower back, and shoulders.
This natural biological treatment gives them the chance to get back in the game and to have a normal life.
QC Kinetics treatments laser focus on areas of intense pain, allowing your body to heal itself with no drugs, so you can focus on normal life.
Walking up the stairs without pain, getting on your bicycle without pain, running again, playing with the kids.
Your consultation is absolutely free.
Call QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur with words from another happy customer.
Atrius Software Accounting is amazing. I was able to see where's all my expenses going, where's the revenue, which month had more revenue. I definitely recommend it to you guys who are a small business and need to record your expenses. And they just make it so easy. I was like, wow, affordable and easy to use. I have recommended it to colleagues.
Easy to learn, easy to use. Small business software tailored just for you.
Visit visit us at patriotsoftware.com. That's patriotsoftware.com.
With patriotsoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Stillman and Company is on. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
So you're now trying to reshape it again and load back up, which is hard to do while still making the playoffs. But you know what? They still made the playoffs when they told you we're going into a competitive transition. We've got to get younger. So that's the history, okay? If you want to go and say, let's strip it down, let's get a new GM, let's blow it up and start over, all right. 3-4 years, I expect to see you in the seats, okay? I've been to some arenas when they're in that mode. I was in Colorado
my
for a few
question
years.
for 4 hours yesterday.
I went to Denver
Fine.
every year.
You going to show up?
From about 2014, 15, 16. Then there was a lot of empty seats.
Willie Donick, 99 miles an hour, right down the middle, stay right. I love it. I love it.
I love the passion.
I love, like, that show today with the callers and them. God, I loved it.
I heard one caller that was on for like 5 minutes and was just spicy. It was great.
With the midday show?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I got to tell you, I love the arguing. That's why Jared versus Joe is such a popular segment. Speaking of the arguing, Joe has weighed in on our Jeff Fisher comparison to John Hines. He said, no one is saying anything like that about Hines. The situation isn't remotely comparable. Joe, I'm telling you how I feel. You were not here covering the Titans when Jeff Fisher was the coach. You did not cover the Titans when Jeff Fisher was the coach. You were not a kid listening to the media tell you what to think of Jeff Fisher as the coach. This is my experience as somebody who lived here feeling like I was always being talked down to by the local media about Jeff Fisher because I couldn't stand Jeff Fisher as the Titans coach, and I feel the same way now. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm just saying, I understand that I was not here when Jeff Fisher was here. I get that. But just the way that you are describing it, I feel like the overall fan base is way more anti-John Hines than anyone ever could be about Jeff Fisher.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of pro-Jeff Fisher. But, I mean, Jeff Fisher was I was so glad we got rid of Jeff Fisher. Oh, my God. What do we have in the text line? Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com.
One texter texts in and says, the irony for you, Stillman, is that John Hines is similar to Mike Mularkey, and you wanted to keep him.
So I think the difference here is Mike Mularkey won a playoff game. Like, think about this. We talk about expectations. The Titans were the worst team in the NFL. Mike Mularkey won 9 games. Everybody was happy. Peter King writes an article about how they should be the 4th best team in the league that year. The Titans win 9 games, and everybody was mad. Then they go to Kansas City, and they upset the Chiefs. And I would argue that upsetting the Chiefs would be very similar to beating Carolina last year. And they went there, and they beat Kansas City on the road in Arrowhead, and the guy still got whacked, and the fans were so for it, and I was just against it because I knew how bad it could get. Like, I knew what Fisher was like. I knew what Wisenhunt was like, and I knew what Mike Munchak was like, and I didn't want that anymore. And so I figured the next coach would probably be more like them than what I knew was a guy that won a little bit in Mike Mularkey. Now, Vrabel is certainly not like those guys and is the best coach the Titans have ever had, and I was against the hire, and I will say that. With Hines, I know the Predators can do better. The guy that I know the Predators can do better than just got fired 3 days ago, and he's out there Barry Trotz.
Joe has responded.
Has he?
Yes. Joe says, I wasn't here, but he had gone to a Super Bowl. It was way into his tenure, right? He had achieved big, and it was getting stale. This is a young, unproven guy early in his tenure, and no one in the media is saying, be careful what you wish for on firing him. Just that he has not been the issue.
You know what's funny is that I believed that Barry Trotz getting fired ended what I thought was going to be the number one Hines argument, and really Hines and Poyle argument. And that was the
who else are you going to
get?
Who
are you going to get to replace him, Jared? And so now that Trotz is out there, you don't hear that anymore. What else we got?
Another texter says Cousins needs to go, Cunnin needs to go, Poyle needs to go, Hines needs to go, Harper needs to go, Myers needs to go.
In that order?
Yeah, all in that order.
Oh, no. I'm saying, like, does he believe,
yeah,
like,
first,
hey,
Luke
Cousins. Luke Cunnin has got to go.
Cunnin,
all right, you have
go
Cunnin.
Poyle.
You can have Cunnin or Poyle. Who would you rather have? Cunnin.
I'm taking Cunnin. And last, Myers can go. So he's the safest of them all. But it says there's
they've already waived him. I mean, he's still on the team, but they waived him earlier this year.
It says there is someone out there better that can replace all of them. But he wants to see high notes stay.
So I don't know about the assistant coaching. You do the assistant coaching on your own time. I have no idea about these guys. I mean, honestly, like, you don't even know about the Titans assistants, and those roles are pretty defined, right? Like, we know who the wide receivers coach is.
Yeah.
But we don't know if the wide receivers coach is any good. You know, I mean, like, you have no idea if they're good or if they have good wide receivers.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't know if the wide receivers coach is good or he just had A.J. Brown.
right. Like, I don't know if Rob Moore's any good. I know that those guys they put out there last year when A.J. Brown got hurt all stunk, but I don't know if that's Rob Moore's fault or not. So when it comes to the assistant coaches for the Predators, I have no opinion on that. What's next?
Another texter asks, what more would we have had without Hines?
I mean, I think you would have beaten Arizona. Like that, I will not get over that. It's like everybody brushes that off as if losing to Arizona in that bubble play-in series was the same as losing to Carolina, and it was not.
I mean, there's really no way to answer that question. Like,
Yeah.
could things have been worse? Yeah. Could things have been better? Yeah.
It's like what a lot of sports debates got into during the COVID shutdowns of no active sports was like a lot of, what if Michael Jordan hadn't retired from basketball, then what?
Yeah,
And it's
you
like,
don't know.
There's no way. I told the story about when I wrote a research paper one time and I needed an extra page and a half, so I just started talking about, like, what if this hadn't happened, and it was just red X right there on my research paper. What's next?
Jeremy texts in and says Hines should never have been hired in the first place. I am so sick of mediocre head coaches getting chance after chance after chance. Management needs to grow some nerve and take a chance on an up-and-coming coach and start the rebuild in the process.
They thought he was the up-and-coming coach.
Well, maybe a better up-and-coming coach. Maybe an up-and-coming coach that can show some results within the first 3 years.
I'll say this. Like, I didn't like the Hines hire. And I actually talked to Porth this weekend, and I asked him, I was like, do you think that I want Hines gone so badly because I never liked it or whatever? And I do feel personally like I probably didn't give, at the beginning, John Hines a fair shot. But I do feel like he's had enough of a shot now. And I can't get over the bench strategy in these games.
And it's not even like he has had a long enough time to get a shot at the Stanley Cup. At least enough time to show progress. Because all it's been the past 3 years is the same. It's the first round.
This is pro sports. It's 7 years. He's been a coach for 7 years.
You got to show something.
Like, you would take that on the front end of, like, hey, I can give you 7 years to prove yourself. And then after that, if you don't prove yourself after 7 years, your career's over.
Like, if you in your own job and whatever job that you as a listener may have, if you don't show improvement in 3 to 7 years, you're probably not that valuable to your company.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about it. That's it for us. We're out of here. The 6, Elijah and Chase. That's coming up next. Do we know what hot takes they got coming up, Max?
There's no telling.
Oh, I bet there's going to be some takes.
There's going to be some spice.
Elijah and Chase McCabe, that's next. We're out of here. We're back tomorrow.